Women of Reddit, what is your worst nice guy experience? A random guy
I don't even
held
know where
my
the hell to
crutches for
go.
me as I walked down some stairs at uni.
Are you
He
streaming
seemed
already?
nice and joked
Yes.
about how he once broke a foot. It'll get better. etc etc. We get to the bottom and he asks if we could get some coffee. I thank him, but tell him I'm seeing someone, so he just drops my crutches on the floor and walks away. So my best nice guy experience was a guy I actually did try to date. We went out once. He didn't have a lot going on, no job, no college, pending assault charges in another state for a 17-year-old girl, which he let me know on the first date. I decided that maybe now wasn't the best time for him to be dating, but he was
Oh my
funny
god,
and
he
nice,
got his
so I
ass
said,
beat. Oh
"Let's
my
stay
god, oh my god, oh
friends."
my god, he
We
got his
agreed
ass
at
beat.
first, but then he started calling and texting me constantly. Whenever I didn't want to hang out with him, it was because I was too busy being a slut and catching chlamydia. As soon as I would respond, he would apologize and be nice.
These fucking
For like
jump scares,
5
yo.
seconds. This continued.
You're a jump
Got
scare.
worse.
Your
And
face
I
is a jump
eventually
scare.
just blocked his
I'm
number.
probably it.
He of course just started calling
Good
and
night.
texting off random
Damn.
phone
Like people
numbers.
that act
One
like
night when I
like,
had
like,
ignored him all day,
and then
he
they
left
came
me a
up first,
voicemail
like-
telling me what
That-
I
oh,
was
you're
doing
cute. Oh my
that
God.
day, and then going into detail about how he wanted to kill me and assault and also end my young
Like,
child's
have my baby.
life. I had to change my number and file a police report to get him to leave me alone. That's what I get for trying to find love on a Cupid. I haven't had many, but I had a recent one. Met a guy at work briefly.
Pikachu always comes
Later
when
see that he friended me on Facebook and asks me out.
He knows.
I said I wasn't looking for a
he
relationship.
senses I want to mess this
Especially
bitch up.
with all my work troubles. He says he's fine with friendship, and says
I
he
don't know you're
understands
streaming
me so
Pokemon.
much. Over the next few weeks he sends me messages about cats or the weather. Stuff like that. Usually about
Damn,
4 in
Corvana
a
has
row,
like no
or
HP.
about an hour apart. I don't really respond much. Then the other day I wake up to a text that says, "Hey," so I write, "Hey, what's up?" I didn't see that the first text was from the previous night. The next text I get back says something like, "Well, I was going to invite you to a party last night, but
T
I see
stands
you
for
were hanging out with
Tyrannosaurus
other
Rex.
people. It's too bad. I guess I'll
Yeah,
just delete
okay.
your number.
Never mind.
I could have loved you forever." I text back
What'd
basically
you say
saying,
now?
"What the hell is it all about?"
He
He
said,
then says that he couldn't stand that I was with someone else and
nah,
could
say
I
it.
please
Say
understand.
what you gotta say.
I thought the messages were mean because I met him once. Never hung out with him. Had good reasons for not starting anything. And yet he tries to make me feel bad when I'm already not doing well. That one time he tried running me over with a truck
How you
when I
doing?
was on holiday.
I hate my name.
Was a friend of 10 years when I started dating a guy in our mutual social circle after my divorce. It was like a switch had been flipped. Suddenly I was a wanton whore who destroyed men. And he spent 6 months actively trying to get my boyfriend to break up with me. He told my boyfriend that women can hurt you. No shit. My boyfriend had just been through an awful divorce. Tried to set my boyfriend up with a friend of his who would be just perfect for him. Got mad at my boyfriend for not going out
I
to
want the
strip
beer
clubs
going.
and living the bachelor
I want
life
the
with
beer
him every
going.
weekend. Keep in mind, my boyfriend is a father of 2 and hadn't lived the bachelor life in well over 10 years. He told my boyfriend that I had a secret that would completely change his mind about me and reveal my true self. Turns
Nah, it
out
stands for
the secret is
T-Rex.
something
I mean,
told my boyfriend
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
offhand before we'd even started dating.
Thank you for coming to my
It was
stream,
not
as
clear to
usual.
either of us whether the nice guy wanted to date me or my boyfriend. Either way, he was salty as fuck about our relationship.
Trainer Girl sounds
I
basic.
own a small vintage clothing
I'm kidding, you already know what T
I
stands
have a
for.
regular cross-dressing old man who comes in looking like Linda Richman and smelling like grandma if grandma was a whore. Well, he was very sweet at first but then started
Please don't
coming
be
in and
static.
saying semi-perverted things. Then one day he came in and we were having a casual
I should've used
conversation and he
Enter.
interrupted me with this. "Standing here talking to you and looking at you is making me hard. It feels like I might come in my skirt any second." Nice. One of them grabbed me by the neck and choked me against a wall for not wanting to kiss him. Another one stalked me for months because I wouldn't fuck him. Another one bought me a drink. Tried to force himself on me. Then followed me home
audio
and actually
duplicate?
tried to get in because I owed him. Those are the ones I can remember right now. Another one waited until I passed out at a party and tried to rape me because he was afraid I would say no.
So like, I don't know, like, should
Harassed
I
me for 6
use the
months after we
desktop or
stopped
like the
talking. was verbally abusive and called me every gendered slur in the book and kept making new email accounts as I blocked them to inform me
Should I
he
use
was a
the
nice
mic
guy
just to
and
like
asking me to help
use
him
the
find a
audio
GF
for
because
both the
nice
video
guys
and
deserve
me, or
GFS. Emails would generally go like, paragraph about
I don't know
how
which
I'm
one
a
sounds
whore.
better.
Paragraph about how nice he is. Paragraph about how lonely he is. Edit. Removed image link to protect Harris's privacy. I've never really told anyone about what happened and it feels healthy to get it off my chest. As long as I'm oversharing. He also posted a
It is
revealing
hot as
picture
fuck in
I
here.
sent even though he sent much worse images because he knew I wouldn't retaliate.
Yes.
Okay, bye. I am a much more well-adjusted male than I give myself credit for. Followed me back to my dorm from class and invited himself to get lunch with me when I tried to divert to a dining hall so he wouldn't know where I lived. Constantly berated me for not making enough eye contact with him the whole time. I was desperately looking around hoping I'd spot
Look,
someone
Wesley,
I
not
knew to
everyone's a
save
freaking
me.
technician.
Would constantly message me and make up stupid pet names for me and plan dates that I turned down every time. I eventually had to threaten going to the police to get him to leave me alone and had to let the professor
He's
of the
showing me I
class
don't know how
we
to
were
do
in
that.
together know so we wouldn't be assigned to any group projects
I'm trying to have
together.
the best
Then
gameplay
another time I had a
experience.
guy try to pull the I have cancer card to get me to pity date him. I'm sorry but no. I also had a lot of male friends totally disappear on me when I got married. Friends I routinely interact with on
You don't
Facebook
know,
and such
but
and considered
I'm
actual
doomed.
friends. Just straight up unfriended me as soon as my relationship status changed
Like
to married.
I was
That
trying
one
to use
stung
the
a bit
mic to
because I
capture the
thought we
video
were
audio,
actually
but
friends,
like
but it turned out they were just
sometimes it
waiting
goes in
around
and
for
out, so
something
that's why I
that
was
was
using it
never
just when
going
it
to
does.
happen. I made enough mistakes in my youth that I can generally spot them and run from a mile away, but my ex got his friends to report back if they ever saw me in public with another dude and would flip out. Or things like, I walked back to my dorm
This guy's
from
a
rehearsal
pedo.
with a dude from my band. Anything involving another guy. I got screamed at and sometimes beat up. His rationale was that he was a nice guy. The only nice guy in fact. Was trying to protect me from other dudes who only wanted to rape me. He himself raped me a number of times while we were together. He did this shit for 6 months after we broke up too. A guy once PM'd me, "Hey girl. You're so beautiful. You look like you know how to suck a good cock." So I asked him how he'd feel if someone spoke to his sister like that. He immediately blew up and told me he'd kill me for talking about his family like that. Makes sense. I have a reproductive issue. It won't kill me, but for the most part, I can't have kids. I had confided in a male friend of mine about some of the sadness I was having over it, coupled with a bad breakup I had just gone through. And he tried to
They
cheer
do
me
shit.
up by saying, "But you're perfect." I was confused, so I asked him to elaborate. "You're hot. You look like Black Widow. You're funny. And you can't ever get pregnant. What guy wouldn't want you?" When I told him that wasn't a compliment, he told me that I'm too much of a social justice warrior to see when a real gentleman pays me a compliment. I was dating this guy. Really nice. We move in together. Awesome. He expects me to cook all the food, buy all the groceries, take care of all the bills, and do all the housework. He occasionally takes a break from his busy schedule of drinking beer and watching sports to tell me I need to go to the gym, stop eating. I wear a size 2. He also criticizes my housekeeping abilities and constantly tells me how poorly my parents raised me. I'm a successful woman with a master's degree. He barely graduated high school and has never had anything other than an entry-level non-skilled job.
I guess I could turn it down.
He told me he was just
That
being
doesn't-
nice and trying to help me, because he cared so much about self-improvement. Needless to say, we are no longer together. I knew a guy in college that took the fact
It wouldn't
that
be
I
a
was sexual
shadow
with some other men to
Pokemon-based game
indicate
without a
that I
Shadow
wanted to be so
Makahito.
with him. I let him know in no uncertain terms that I didn't like him, was not attracted to him, did not want to fuck
This
him,
is die.
or be in any sort of relationship. He kept sticking his toe over the line though. Not enough to warrant a major response, but still pushing it. One night at a party he tackled me onto a bed and started groping me, trying to take my clothes off, etc. I'm not sure what he was thinking. Given the differences in our sizes and temperament, I beat the shit out of him. Due to the pain I've seen sexual assault cause some of my very close friends in the past and the greater than average dislike of rapists I have as a result, I likely went
That
way
is
too
weak.
far. at least from a legal point of view. However, that ended the problem. I was drunk and walking back to my dorm when I ran into a guy who lived on the opposite end of my freshman hall. We walked back and he got me water and aspirin for the hangover, and suggested we grab breakfast at a coffee shop in the morning. Come morning, I run into him on my way to the bathroom and we make plans to grab a quick bite. During which I casually mentioned my boyfriend was visiting at the end of the semester. He immediately gets up and leaves. I finished my food, paid the bill, and passed him aggressively whittling a dagger, with the door open as I walked back to my room with his uneaten leftovers. Didn't acknowledge me for the rest of the year despite living 8 doors down. Weird dude. I used to be an Isekai guy. The thing is, I have mental issues, depression, anxiety, paranoia. Never try to deal with someone who says they're a nice guy. I'm no longer one. But that's after years of therapy and being on meds.
So you about to spit some facts?
If an Isekai says he's reformed,
About what?
always be cautious. Looking at the girls I creeped out back then, and how I creeped them out. If I were them, I would not trust me. Judging from those experiences alone, even if I can say now that I'm a
there would be so many nice guys.
I will never expect anyone who I've creeped out to believe me,
guys on.
and they are justified. Anyone who's had to deal with
I'm not saying all nice guys are let on.
It's
I'm
not
saying,
worth
like,
the stress
believe
of
it
the
or
stuff
not,
that he will
quite a
bring
few
you.
of them.
Usually, when a guy says,
So you think-
Can't say y'all don't.
that's
You
code
say-
for I'm not a nice guy.
So you say that because
I
there are a
went
lot
to
of nice
pretty
guys, a
small
lot of
college in
girls lead them
Northern
on.
Colorado. My freshman
Some.
year, I
I'm not
befriended
saying
a
all.
nice guy
Some
named
are just like
I ended up
mentally ill.
flirting with a
But some,
fraternity. I went on a
some
couple
probably
of
were let
dates
on
with
by
a
a
guy
girl.
from Mars frat. I thought things
Some.
were going well, then
And then
the
they
guy
turned
I
into
dated
nice guys.
just stopped responding to me. A bunch
I
of
mean, I
other
guess.
people involved in the Greek community and lots of people in my dorm started giving me funny looks, or conversations would end as soon as I came
That's
in the
either
room.
what happened or they have some like
Apparently,
serious
I was
mental
pissed
issues.
that I
There's
wasn't
no in
dating
between.
him, so he told
I
everyone
see like
I had.
30% will let on
I
and
ended up
7% just have
transferring
mental
schools
issues.
because of that guy.
That's
I'd
not
always
breaking down
been a
the assessment.
tomboy and grew up with a lot of male friends. Since reaching adulthood, I've also grown some breasts.
I
This
mean, I
combination
guess.
of things has led to most of my best guy friends asking me if they could finally see my tits since we've been friends
You
for
ain't
so
ready for that
long,
talk.
and subsequently vanishing when I said no.
Just like Naomi isn't
It's
ready to talk
depressing
about
enough when I
K-pop not being
realize that a guy I into
Not
just
being
wants to
good.
bang.
K-pop
But it
being
really helps
overhyped.
when the guys I
I'm not gonna
thought
say it's
were
not good.
actual
I'm gonna say it's
human
overhyped.
beings
And y'all
with whom I
stand
developed
K-pop
deep
artists way
multi-year
too hard.
friendships were
They
just
Like I saw
do.
someone die
frustrating
on my Twitter line,
animals.
right?
So
And like in the comment section,
I've got
it was
some
like, "This is
trust
what
issues
happens when
now.
you don't stand this
These
insert
stories
K-pop
are
group." I was
disturbing
like,
and make me glad I had a father
Yeah,
who
y'all
taught
are
me simply if she's not
gonna need to
showing
be eradicated.
interest, just leave them alone.
They always posted
Don't
like
be a dick.
K-pop dancing clips, and that's so
I was dating
cringy.
an LDS guy, Mormon, and assumed that he'd want
If
to
I
have
wanted
fun
to
and
see
get to
someone
know
dancing,
each
I would
other
go
without
watch
the
Stomp the
physical
Yard and watch
stuff.
Chris Brown get
I
shot like
was
5
taking a
times.
casual sex break. After a little over a month, we're making out, a common occurrence.
Is it
and
not
he
true, Vivian?
decided to just penetrate
I
me
guess.
without discussion or
Chris
consent.
Brown does get shot? Never.
Yes. I realized
He
that
got shot by
fast.
Rihanna.
He called the next day to tell me I was too touchy and that
I'm
he didn't
gonna
want to see
beat
me
you,
anymore
girl.
because I
I'll
jeopardized
be
his place in heaven
there.
and made him less worthy of a pure woman. Met a guy in high school who was really nice. We
I
would
know this
talk
game
and
likes to
hang out at
crash. I'm
lunch.
just gonna keep
One
saving
day,
every like
he
5
called
minutes.
my house at 2 a.m. repeatedly
Wait,
until
did it
I
say?
answered and told him it's too late to talk.
I learned from my mistakes.
After about the third
Learn
time,
from
he
my-
called again.
Oh yeah, the
and my
fucking
sister,
your
my
your game
guardian at the
crashed.
time, answered and told him to stop.
I know
calling.
why it crashed, but
He
like,
called
I'm
her
still
a bitch and
gonna
he stopped calling. The next day at school I avoided him and he followed me around. I made sure to be around someone at all times and he would harass another guy and say, "Why are you trying to steal my girl?" Then when I was sitting at my desk he
No one
sat on
so
the ground
long
by
face
my
as
feet
girl.
and kept trying to
No,
slide
no
his
nipple
hands
having
up
as
under
girl.
my clothes.
You know, belly button having ass
After
girl.
a week of this he finally
Yo,
left me
my
alone.
chest.
Posted
Dave
flyers
is a
all over
barbarian
town with the
built up,
message
bro.
for a good time call. My mother,
You know what?
with
Oh,
her
man, I'm gonna
phone
take that.
number,
I'm gonna take that
was
statement
my
back.
dad.
Okay.
After she kicked him out for being an
Big
abusive
titties
prick.
filled the hand, small ones
10
filled
years
with
and
filled
2
heart.
more failed marriages later still thinks he is a nice guy and she
Right,
left
Vivian?
him for no reason.
Yep.
My girlfriend and I were playing Ark with him. Had a tribe and everything. Well, he found out we were dating and also that it was illegal for him to fuck us, so he called us dyke whores and harassed
Dyke
us on our
whores, oh my
Twitters
God.
for about a week until
Wait, what do
he
you mean?
finally
What does she
fucked
mean it was
off.
illegal for him to
He
fuck
lived
her?
like an hour away from me too and wanted
Oh,
to meet
no.
and fuck, so that was kinda scary. I'm paranoid about leading people on. I'm petite with large breasts and doe eyes, so I seem to give the young exploitable anime girl vibe. I hung out with a guy. We watched Mighty Boosh and chatted. Before he came
What is
over,
that?
I literally said I am not looking
Never
for
heard
a
of it.
relationship. Please don't ask to be more than friends, as I had
I don't watch
recently
that
gotten
much
out of a long-term relationship. Of course that
Oh, I gotta
apparently
make shrimp Alfredo
translated
with
to
that.
him asking me out via text as soon as he got home. Upon politely declining, I was subjected to every sexual slur you could think of whilst being told what an idiot I am for passing up such a stand-up guy. Thus began his
Stand-up
2-year
comedian, more
campaign of
like it.
stalking. Honestly, the worst nice guy experience I ever had was in middle school. So we were maybe 12 or 13. I was friends with this kid. He was kind of small, kind of awkward. But we got along and we talked in science class and gym. He gave me an anonymous note, although from the nature of its content, I could tell it was from him. That said that he was very shy but said it'd be really great if I could call him one time, and the note gave me his number. Not being interested in dating at the time, and sort of figuring where this was going, I didn't comply to avoid an awkward situation. Later in the year, we were both in a production play, and when it had finished,
Wesley's cheating on
he
me
and
as
I were
usual.
standing in the line getting ready to go out and bow. This required us to hold hands. So as soon as I put my hand in his, he grabbed my pinky and started to sharply twist it. Nearly friggin' broke it. That day, I suspected the relationship wouldn't have gone too well. Even the kids. Man. Sheesh. This thread makes me sad.
Hey
There are
Brianna, how you
tons of
doing?
genuinely nice guys
Thank
who
you for
don't
coming to the
just want
stream
to
as
have sex
usual.
with you, so they're pretending. I imagine it's kinda like a God quote. Any man who must say I am the king is no true king at all. It's kinda like that with nice guys. Okay, I worked as a stripper for a few years and would regularly have to deal with these nice guys. But one stands out in my memory. Typical Saturday night guy comes in with a bunch of friends. I strike up a conversation. First thing out of his mouth was, "I never come to these places, they are so degrading to women. I'm only
That's
here
fine.
because my friends wanted to come." I brush it off. He then proceeds to tell me I'm way too beautiful for this job and a man like him would treat me like a princess. I say, well, ugly strippers wouldn't really make much money now, would they? And
I
that
encountered
have a
only like
partner who treats
one
them
nice guy in
fantastically.
like my entire
Well,
life.
that put him in a rant. How could a man let me take my clothes off for money? I bet
was
my
pretty
partner is an
weird.
asshole and I'm probably just a dumb bitch who lets him. Nice guys like him never get beautiful women because all the asshole take them and make them work demeaning jobs. He went on and on about how unfair the world was and I'm just a whore.
I just realized the
I let him
fucking
rant
level
and
gap.
then cracked up laughing and saying, yeah, no wonder you're single and sitting in a strip club, you fucking tosser. Guy. But I've got a gay nice guy pseudo stalking me at the moment.
Mel, are you a
Randomly
nice
friends
guy?
me on Facebook after we briefly interacted
Are you
twice.
very nice?
Friends of friends scenario, then tracks me down at work to ask me why I
You're an
haven't
asshole.
accepted his friend request. Shows up at my place of work
You a
every
Chad?
day. I work on campus, so it's not like he drives somewhere. But still, to hang out. Follows me around while I'm out on a ticket, while saying things like you're off right now so it doesn't matter, and ignoring me when I say I'm not off. And aggressively hugs me out of nowhere. Tells me we're hanging out or he's giving me a ride home or whatever. Sometimes randomly brings up that his family bugs him about his being single and reminds me that he's gay. Honestly can't tell if he wants to friend me, fuck me, or kill me.
I don't love these people.
My high school boyfriend said all
Oh
the
my
right
gosh, Shroom is
things.
just so
Made me
weak.
fall in love with him. Made my family fall in love with him. Married me.
Or should I say Wiz
Gave me the
Khalifa?
white picket fence house. 3 kids. Typical American dream. Everything was perfect. Or so I thought. Fast forward 6 years. He ghosted on me and the kids, ages 6, 4, and 1, with my best friend. They're now married and he signed away his parental rights to the kids. He just straight up
What are
dumped
you
us
eating?
all to start a new life with my
Cereal.
ex best
Cereal.
friend. He sees the kids just often enough to open the wounds when they heal. He claims he's a nice guy, but he had to follow his heart and she just didn't want kids, even though she has one of her own. No serious tag was a mistake, but I'll live with it. Met Bill at a
Shroom
friend's
just can't do
party. There
anything.
was
My
definite attraction,
lord.
so we started dating.
Evolve,
We really had
please,
fun.
evolve.
It seemed like we could make a good life together. After a year together he asked me to move in with him and it looked like a good idea. The first nights in his house he had me by the front of my shirt up against a wall laying down the law about how things would be from now on. It's like the niceness was a front to get me exactly where he wanted me, under his roof and his rules. He seemed to think that he now owned me. That sure didn't work for me. I packed up and got out within days.
Damn,
A guy friend in junior high. We had several classes and sat next to each other. Platonic. Loyal friends for 2 years before he
new
got
challenge.
weird.
Can I be Pokemon XD with only a
We
Shroomish?
could talk about anything. His house had a pool.
I bet you can.
So during
I
warm
definitely
weather, a
can,
bunch
and
of us
I'll
would
definitely
swim
get
at his
frustrated.
house after school. One day he invites me over to swim after school. When I get there,
You
no
looked
one
at
else is
yourself
there,
before you lost in the
which was
game.
weird.
I would get
He
so
was
mad
smashing me,
and so annoyed at
sort of
Pokemon
aggressively
to the point where
flirting,
I would never play
dunking
another
me.
Pokemon game ever.
So I get out of the pool and he pins me down to kiss me.
And that day you
So
do
I
shit.
play it off as joking and leave. I give him the cold shoulder after that and he was pissed. 2 weeks later and at a different friend's house he and I are both there for a swim birthday party and he and another guy give me a simultaneous front and back seesaw which is like a horball double wedgie in the pool. My swimsuit cut me so badly I bled. I hate you, Pat. Go to
Ooh,
love
I
that
might
this
catch
post
this.
was linked to our for the Wounded and over there
I
they
know
are doing
Vulpix is
mental
Shadow Pokemon.
gymnastics to blame the girl about all these experiences. Edit. Keck. They fully banned me from that site. Ugh. I was around 13 or 14 and he was my best friend. He had a crush on me and I thought he was a nice guy and I should give him a chance. I'll never forget him pinning me down and shoving his prepubescent dick down my throat.
Ew.
Worst nice guy ever. Not a woman. But at TAFE, Community College for Americans, a guy paid for a girl's nipple piercing then demanded a blowjob. Yeah, that guy was a wanker. I actually have a story of a recovered nice guy. Years back he and I became friends. We weren't really close but we got along and chatted regularly. One day he tells me I'm the most amazing woman he's met and he's loved me the whole time blah blah blah. I told him I didn't feel the same way and he got angry cursing me out etc. I was upset. I really like being friends with this dude and while I understood our friendship mightn't be exactly the same after, I didn't think I deserved abuse for not being in love with him. Anyway. Fast forward to a couple of years ago and I see him at the shops. We wave to each other but don't speak. Later I get a message
I'll go
from
search
him
up the
and we
catch
start
rate.
chatting back and forth.
Catch
Then he's
probability.
saying something
but never
like I
mind.
want to apologize for how I treated you back then. I'm sorry I ruined our friendship and you didn't deserve my reaction. Hope we can make amends.
When Shroomish is on the field, it's basically a
It
1v2.
was really nice to get an apology.
Because
Sadly,
Shroomish
from 10
is so
years
weak
ago, he's
that
probably in one of these
his hits
stories.
don't even matter.
Where do I start? Met a guy online dating. His profile actually started with nice guy, and chatted for a few weeks before meeting up. Had made it exceptionally clear that I wanted to see if our chemistry existed in real life but wasn't going to sleep with him on first sight. Met up with him and he talked incessantly about how he hadn't had sex in weeks and needed to break his
Then you
drought.
complete
I
Pokemon
leave.
Black and Blue.
He texts to
But
ask
just
if
your
I
starter.
thought he was nice. Then
That's so
proceeds
easy.
To send 4 dick pics and asks me to come back.
You have no
He's so
idea how
offended
easy
when
that
I
is.
said no. Calls to beg me to come over for sex so I can help him with his situation because he's a nice guy. Was friends with a guy for years. And then he asked me out while I was in a relationship.
Wait,
It wouldn't have been so
Hey, you
bad if
already
he
have
hadn't
an SPR.
reacted to me saying no by
What do you
going
mean?
on a tirade about how ungrateful he was because
Wait
he'd
a
been my
minute.
friend for so long.
In Pokemon
And he'd been
XD,
so nice to me. And no one else would have stuck around when I'd been so crazy. He finished up by breaking in a
In
few
Pokemon
days
Black?
later to steal my medication
Yeah.
and left a note saying
What
that
you
he
mean?
hoped being off it made me kill myself.
do you know how
Dude I dated for
Espeon,
a
how
while
Eevee
always
evolves into
complained when
Espeon?
we first started going out about how girls
Friendship.
always screwed him over.
Friendship.
Nice guys finished last
you didn't have
ETC,
built friendship
etc.
that fast.
He told me his
Yes,
story
you can.
and I
You
felt so sorry
you've
for
we've
him.
been playing the game for like
After a few
what?
months together,
How
he
many
turned
levels
out
we've
to
been
be
playing the
most
game?
possessive, irrational person I've ever
We're at like
encountered.
what level
I couldn't
24?
hang out
Of
with
course,
my
he would have been a
friends.
fucking Espeon by now.
Not even girlfriends. He even flipped on me for hanging out with my brother and giving him a hug. WTF. I finally dumped him when I got my first teeny tiny tattoo and he slut shamed me for a few days straight. He told me how if I chose to be a pierced and tatted person, I had plugs and nose piercings when he met me, that I was choosing a promiscuous life and he finds that to be the most unattractive thing in the world. Yo, okay buddy. Bye bye. 3 years later he still shows up to my places of work. He showed
should've
up
just
at my
waited.
current job 2 days after I started working there.
Yeah, I definitely should have just waited.
When
Fuck.
I was about 16, an older female
I
friend
thought
of
there was
mine
gonna be a
was
jump
dating
scare
an even
before
older
the
guy.
Pokemon healing
So
thing.
she, myself, and another female friend went to his apartment one night to hang out. It started out with pizza and a movie. And the guy my friend was dating started telling a story about a guy friend who apparently had a huge penis. My friends and I joked about how we wanted to see it. Little did I know. The guy telling the story texts his well-endowed buddy about how there's a young blonde who wants to see his junk. I guess. At any rate, the guy shows up and starts hounding me all night. He's much older. And I'm woefully inexperienced and intimidated. He corners me in the stairwell and proceeds to tell me how lucky I am he came to see me. He said there were several other parties and girls waiting for him. But he wanted to be nice and come meet me. He kept trying to put my hand down his pants. I kind of just froze. Then he backed me against the wall and kissed me. He had a large nose and I just remember it pressing into my nose bone painfully. I finally just had to shove him off and stomp upstairs while he called me a bitch. I still cringe about how I just froze like an idiot. I was hanging out at a bar that I go to pretty often with a couple of my other friends. Guy struck up a conversation with me. He was friendly and I was friendly back. We started discussing relationships and I told him I was married and then things turned weird. I was looking at something on my phone and he grabbed my phone from my hand, called his phone with my phone, refused to give me my phone back. I got pretty upset. Bartender who knew me grabbed my phone out of his hand, told him to get out before the guy left. He grabbed me and kissed me. In a situation like that I want to think that I would not check the dude, but in actuality I froze up. I was shocked and felt so goddamn violated. One of my friends pulled me away and the bartender physically removed him out of the bar. When I was 17, one of my most favorite people in the world passed away very unexpectedly. After the funeral we had a wake at the pub. Then family came back to our house to kick on. My cousin brought his girlfriend, who we knew and liked, and another friend who we'd never met before. I'd spent the day crying constantly, and I'm not a pretty crier, and at some point cousin's girlfriend came up to me, giggling, and said, "Our friend really likes you." I said I wasn't interested, and after the usual comments, "Oh, but he's so lovely. But he really likes you." She went away. After a half hour she came back and said he's outside crying because you rejected him. He really wants you to go out there and cheer him up. I got my uncle to go out there and tell him to bugger off. I've had a bunch of nice guy friends who stopped talking to me after I made it clear I wasn't interested in dating them. But the worst was one guy who was legitimately my friend for 2 years and seemed to not mind the fact that I wasn't attracted to him and claimed he wasn't attracted to me either. Pretty much he ended up calling me a whore, telling all our mutual friends I had played him, and shutting me out. Edit. There was also the nice guy I was friends with for a year who pinned my arms together and forcibly kissed me until I wriggled away free.
Yo, that's actually
Then
true.
didn't understand why I didn't
Yo, they
talk
say
to
that.
him
I want
after that.
cake.
Can't forget about that gem. I was 16 and quite lonely, so I posted something on Tumblr so people would message me. I added a 26YO guy from NY. I am from Switzerland, so time zones are different. In my mind it was clear and it seemed obvious that I didn't want anything romantic as we had 10 years of difference, and I told him that I only wanted a friend. Well, after messaging for a while he told me he had to go to sleep and made me promise to continue to talk to him once he woke up. Weird, but whatever, I thought. Few hours later he messaged me and talked about how he wanted me to be his girlfriend and so on. I told him again that I was only looking for a friend.
Oh, so we're actually gonna make this a thing, Drawing Sunday?
Telling me I'll lead him on.
I don't know.
Even though I told him
I
I
just
was
feel like
only
drawing.
looking for a friend when we first talked. I ended up having to block him because I couldn't get him to calm down or to understand that I didn't want to talk to him anymore. I never made another post to meet new
Yeah, I can't
people
believe you've
online
never heard
after
that
that.
song.
When
I have to
wrote
actually
and
hear it. I
didn't
can't
respond
listen to
his
someone sing it.
message, he texted me whore and fuck you, I'm a nice guy, the irony. Became friends with this guy in college. After graduation he got a job and moved in with his girlfriend about an hour's drive from where I was in grad school. I drove out one Saturday to see him. Did some cool things. Grabbed some food. He waited until his girlfriend was in the bathroom before he told me the following. My boyfriend probably had a low sperm count due to his profession. And if I ever wanted
So you're not gonna draw? What the fuck?
I am gonna draw, but I gotta cook too.
We'd never been together. Yeah.
And like, you know how like see-through,
Edit.
like
For
you
those
don't
who
have
are
to
having a
see-through,
hard
right?
time passing
Yeah.
this, nice
Like
guy
when you
says my
freeze it and then
boyfriend
you
probably
unfreeze
has
it,
low sperm
and then you
count. Offers to
unfreeze
start
it,
family
and like
with me. Also,
it
thanks
gets
for
to that
gold.
point where like you can like.
If you want to
It's
get
not
nothing
bad,
in
but you
return,
can smell
you
it.
can like and
Yeah.
join my Discord.
Yeah,
There
that's
is a
what's going
link in
on
the
right now. I'm
description.
about to cook this shit. I don't need it for my
Hands up,
nose.
bullies.
You better hope
When
it tastes
did you
good,
realize
too.
Your child was a bully, and how did you react? In preschool, my daughter
I'm
began
pretty
to
sure it's
show
good.
signs of being a
My
mean
dad
girl.
checked it.
She would talk
I'm pretty
about
sure
refusing to play
I'm
with
pretty sure
someone
it's good.
because she didn't like their
But yeah.
clothes and convince her friends not to play
Bro.
with other kids.
What the
I was worried
fuck?
about my nose for like a
TV
second,
version
right?
of Mean
My
Girls
nose
with her,
like
and we
stuffed up.
stopped
I
and
can't
talked
even
about
like
how
I'm
the
nose
kids
blind right
treated
now.
each other and
And I
how
blew
they
my
might be
nose.
feeling.
And
She
I
started
immediately
being
smelled
nicer all
seafood.
around.
I was like, nah.
What really spoke
I
to
was like,
her was
nah.
being the victim of a mean girl
Like,
situation
nah.
in first
Garbage,
grade.
nah.
Now in middle school, she is quick to identify mean girls and bullies, doesn't let herself become their victims, and befriends kids who are victims and helps
Fucking
them
ice
connect
cream.
with other nice kids. Not all heroes wear
Damn, okay,
capes.
elephant.
Sometimes they were villains first. A year after I graduated high school, the meanest, most popular girl in school mother called my mom
Elephant?
and said,
Why they call
"I'm
you
sorry if my
elephant?
daughter ever upset or hurt your daughter."
I used to blow my
Apparently,
nose
she
exactly
called a
like
bunch
that,
of
but
girls'
louder.
moms from my grade
Oh, so
to
I'm not the only one who
apologize
heard
for
it.
her daughter's behavior.
Yeah.
Was told my kid was a bully in 4th
Bro,
grade.
did I tell you about the
I
time?
had seen signs of him being bossy to his sister's
I was
son.
taking a test.
We had numerous talks. I watched him like
Yeah.
a hawk. Jumped
And
on
my
him if he
teacher,
even
it was the
so much as
ACT.
gave a
You know what the
sideways
ACT is?
glance at his
Yeah.
sisters.
I
Later
was taking
on,
the ACT,
the
and I
kid
wouldn't take it
supposedly
because it was
bullied came to
optional.
a small
And like I
gathering
was
at
sick.
our house.
And the
What
teacher
a
was like,
little crap that
she was
kid
like, the teacher was like,
Took our
Jermo,
digital
you're gonna
camera
take this
off my
test. I'm like, I'm
husband's
sick.
desk,
I can't
and they
even
were
breathe
expensive
straight.
items,
And there's not
and
enough
broke the
oxygen.
battery compartment
There's not
only
enough
because he
oxygen
threw the
going to
stupid
my brain
camera
to
because
answer
it wasn't
answer these
Polaroid.
questions.
I had a hard time keeping my
I fell
husband
asleep.
from bullying
I didn't
this
take the
little
test.
During the
crap.
I took the
ACT.
test.
Later still,
I fell
talking
asleep.
to other parents,
During the
my
ACT?
son was not the only
During
one
the
fairly
ACT.
accused.
That was
It was
The little
in
crap was
it was
tiny
my
for his age, had
it was
red
my
hair
junior
and
year though.
freckles and
Did
long
you?
Sorry,
What did you
eyelashes
that's
score?
and a smile, and at first
I don't
glance
know.
was angelic.
I
My
don't
son
remember.
was cool
I know I
without
fell asleep during it
tempering
though.
the
You
truest.
probably got
Because
like
it was
a.
optional.
He was not the only one. I
Probably got like a
always wonder
5.
what became of the little crap.
With as little, like as little as oxygen that was going to my brain, you know, I
was
probably did
afraid
get
of
a
looking
5.
like a wimp with my black eye and busted lips.
Sick
So the
me
school
and
helped me
awake
take
me
time
are
off
two
until the
different.
bruise went down and my lip swelling went down, and told the
It's
other
like
kids I bumped my
6
head
a.m.
pretty
me
hard and needed to
and
rest.
like 6
When I came
6
back,
6
I
p.m. me
was
are two
called
different
to the
people.
office in the morning, and the kid was in there
How are
with
they
his
different?
mom. Holy crap, was that
My
woman
thoughts?
scary when she's mad.
I'm
The
more
principal
wild.
said OP.
But later I stay up
Insert
to more
dude who
wild.
whooped my butt's name. Would like to day something. He just stood there for like 5 minutes until his mom broke the silence with, "Hey, quit being an butt," and say it while smacking him. Not hard, just enough to let him know that she meant business. Upside the back of the head. To which he apologized. His mom told him to get his butt to the car while she talked to me. After her rage subsided, she was the sweetest woman ever. She said her oldest sons bullied him and she thinks he was looking to take that out on someone smaller than me, and that she should have done something about it, and that she was more sorry than he is.
You
After
said
that, she had me
use some
some
butter,
chocolate
use some
and other
Creole
candy
seasoning,
and
use some
said,
garlic
"Don't
powder,
worry,
use some
if
onion
she so
powder.
much as acts up one more time, she will
Oh, he
paint
also
his
said I
back
cut in
porch
half.
red, as well as her older sons for bullying her youngest so much." Pretty good friends with the guy now. Really mild-mannered dude. His mom is also hot, even after over 10 years. That's a great parent, sweet when needed, but also harsh and scary when the situation calls for it. Not a parent, but my older brother was a horrendous
Mel, are you a
bully to
parent?
both myself and other children.
No.
He was just
Are you apparently a
abnormally
hoe?
aggressive from day one. First
Can't have no
thing he
kids.
did when I
Feel
was
like getting
born was
pranked,
try
bitch.
to attack
You know
me,
what?
and from there began years of physical attacks
Why would
that
you
would
say
last
that?
into my teens. And when he
I
began
felt like
school,
it, honestly.
wasn't long before he
He's like, "Pull out
started
game strong,
attacking and
bitch."
bullying other kids too. He was also a poor student and was always getting
Kinda
into
100%
all sorts of
was the one
trouble
I
with
used.
TC. He really relished violence, arguing and being antisocial. My parents were split on the issue of my brother's antisocial behavior, no matter what my brother did wrong. He was my mother's golden boy, but at
I
the
should have
same
just
time,
ganged up
she
on the
expected
fur
my
red.
father to discipline my brother, while she refused to intervene and made constant excuses for his behavior. Then one day my father died, and after that, there was nobody with either the power will to properly intervene on my brother's bad behavior.
I don't want
So
to
the
waste
downward
the thing,
spiral
so
of
I'm just
endless
gonna
incidents at different
switch
schools
it.
continued and eventually
Alright.
culminated in my brother getting expelled with no grades. He was not unloved. Over the years, endless relatives, friends and teachers etc. doted on him and gave him so many opportunities, educational and otherwise. People were always convinced that there must be some sort of understandable reason for why he was the way he was, and that all he needed was the right sort of support and he would improve. These days he openly identifies himself as a psychopath. And you know, I would have to agree somewhat with that self-diagnosis. He is very smart, but he seems to suffer from a profound lack of innate ability to empathize with other people. Despite this though, he views himself as a superior being, and he has a long history of manipulative behavior. I can't say that things worked out great for my brother. As an adult in his 30s he is a fascist with very few friends, no real career, no education. He has wasted a lot of his inheritance and he has alienated almost every person in my family because of reputations he developed for being lazy, antisocial, undependable, manipulative, hard to handle and just generally lacking in integrity. I myself cut him out of my life because he was nothing but drama and because he also remained very volatile and threatening even as an adult. Overall, while my mother's approach to raising my brother certainly didn't help things, I also think that there was something fundamentally wrong with my brother from the get-go. There must be some sort of understandable reason. There certainly is a reason. Just not an understandable and manageable one, I think. The first week of first grade the teacher told us he was starting to have bully-like behavior. We've struggled with counteracting it since and he's 13 now, but he also is autistic with a learning delay and has a lot of issues either being super focused on something, usually the wrong thing, or nothing at all. It is always someone else. Someone else started.
Hi, girl.
Or she was
Hi,
looking at me
girl.
the wrong way. He will always
Hello,
have just one
sister.
person he hates like a mortal
Hi,
enemy. You try to
sisters.
defuse
James
the
Charles here.
situation by telling him to tell the teachers when something happens so they can be aware of the situation. But it seems
Mel
to
likes
be
James Charles.
two-sided, always.
Telling.
Since
I
starting
do.
high school this year,
But
2 terms, and we've
you know what,
been
deny it?
suspended twice. In primary school, he hit a kid in the face because she didn't blink. He thought she was a doll apparently.
If you playing with me, you can get it
As
too.
parents,
Uh,
but they're now
Without
best.
love,
He is a very difficult child at the best of times and has only recently started medication
I
for
like it
ADHD,
rough.
which has
I'd
helped his
rather
behavior
feel pain
significantly.
than
But
nothing
we
at
still have to deal
all.
with the lesser understanding of consequences. I remember this one
I can't believe
kid
you don't know
kept
this song.
trying to pick fights with everyone had parents that was in charge of a local
build next to the
church.
speaker, maybe I'll
Parents
find out.
got
Actually, no, I'll
upset
get
and tried to
copyrighted.
start a legal battle when I defended myself on the
About
playground.
3 days, girl.
I was
The
suspended and my
feeling
punishment
hurt.
was the new
You're
Spider-Man
not
movie.
the
It's pizza
only
time.
one. I lick you
But I had to
by
change
the
my work schedule
hand.
to pick my kids up from
I
school.
feel like we're
My
underleveled.
7th grader was verbally antagonizing a 7/8th grader on the walk home. It started with her complaining she was being bullied till her older brother told on her that she was instigating. Long story short, it was her way of trying to get more attention from me because she didn't have the words to explain what she wanted. It happened years ago, a bit after I went from being a stay-at-home mom to a single working mom. I made more effort to spend more time with them. Not a parent, but I'm the eldest cousin and one of the younger lads had a bit of a bully phase when I was in my early teens. I was used to him picking on his little brother, but he started extending it to other lads, extended family and friends. He was tall for his age so he abused that, but I was bigger back then. I'm now a puny 5'9" to those 6+ monstrosities. So I put him in a headlock and asked how it felt. He started crying. He cut his crap after that, at least around me. He still picks on his brother as an adult, but if anyone else tries he unleashes holy wrath. Hopefully I wasn't a bully. I didn't pick on people, but if people picked on me I was like, right, we fighting. Not me, but when I was growing up we had a neighbor kid who was like 6 years older than me, always teasing and making fun of me, until one day, when I was already in a crappy mood. I was like 6. It happened a lot. I put on my gloves. It was cold out.
When I was a kid,
Don't judge
this
me.
one
Then
boy
jumped
made me
up
so
and
angry that I
punched
almost
him
threw a
square in the
fucking
mouth,
car at his head.
knocked one of his teeth out, and gave
Y'all
him a
are some,
busted
like,
lip.
really,
Went pulling inside.
really
His
anger
mom came
management,
over
bro.
an hour
I
or so
swear.
later and was
You said what?
basically like, yet I
You
always
have
knew
anger
he was a
management.
little
How?
He deserved it, then left. He never spoke
In
to me
elementary school, I
again,
didn't have that
though.
problem.
As far as I know, he's married now with his own kids.
Okay, you know what? That's a lie.
I meant like one of those toy
Wait.
trucks. One of those toy trucks.
I know.
2 years whereby she actively seeks out
You know
younger,
what's
smaller
angry?
children. She
You have to have
cousin
to
my
throw one of
daughter
those and give it up to let someone else play with it.
She is
You want to hit
possessive
someone
over
else on the
anything and
head.
everything and generally makes other kids' lives heck. My SIL is absolutely
He made me
useless at
so
disciplining
angry
her,
with me
and
funny.
dad is too much, so she gets very mixed.
But like my mom
My solution has
needed
been
me,
that
so
when
I
she is a
couldn't
bully
throw it.
towards my kids or others
I was
that
so
am
close to
around,
throwing
I
that
will
shit.
watch her like a hawk, and once she has had her first strike there are no more chances. I isolate my kids from her and have them play nicely and put her on a sort of forced playtime timeout where she isn't allowed to play with us, and then tell her it is because she was mean to another child. She is intelligent enough for this to sink in, but generally only gives us an hour of relative peace before she You're doing the right thing. Showing her being mean leads to not getting to play. I am a behavioral therapist, and if kids show physical aggression in play areas they lose access to help curb the behavior. Victim of one when I was young and heard what the parent did. I left school one day and the bully and his friends caught up with me, beat me up and threw me in the mud, then ran off with my cap. I cried on my way home, but before I got home, the father of one of the bullies caught up with me,
All my depressing
grabbing me
music playing in the
strongly and
background.
held me hard
I think y'all
against
can
the
hear it.
stone wall,
Yeah, you got depression.
saying that I had stolen the bully's cap.
I know you know
The
this song.
father was very
I know
angry
you know
and
this song.
whirled
I'm not
me
gonna play it.
left,
I'm gonna sing it.
while I just
Hey.
cried more. He went through my bag and didn't find anything, then angrily shouted at me for throwing it away. It was clear that he wanted to drag me along to search for it, but I just gave up and went limp. Didn't move at all, and he just left me there by the road to cry. Later that day, my father went to talk to the bully's father. I don't know what specifics they talked about, but my father said that the bully's father just told the bully not to do it again, and that was it. Some parents can be buttholes, even mine, but not in this situation. I am the stepmother of a bully. It is insignificant other's firstborn son. We only get to see him once a week and it is horrible. He is always getting suspended from school for hitting kids, cussing out the teacher, and his bio mother does absolutely nothing. His bio father and I are not allowed to discipline him in any way, and he takes advantage of it. He has no remorse or empathy. He has tripped his 3-year-old brother on purpose just cause. Tells his sister to shut up, calls her names and hits her just because. He once smacked a girl he was playing with so hard in the face she had a welt because she tagged him, and then looked us in the eyes and lied about it. I usually tell him to knock it off and ask him if he would like it if someone treated him that way.
I don't know this
He
damn
doesn't
song.
care. In fact, he gets angry if I ask him that. I am honestly terrified that he will end up in prison. I no longer allow him around my son for fear he will hurt him. I know there is something wrong with this boy, but his mother is unwilling to discipline him in any way and there is nothing we can do. Not the parent, but the victim of the bully and the witness of the discovery by said parent. This girl in my class used to pick on me every day. It ranged
Pretty
from
much.
calling me names all the way up to once standing on my back for 2 minutes after already kicking my stomach multiple times. It usually would happen either at lunch at school or at the bus stop on the way home. One day, after getting off the bus to go home, the girl kicked the back of my knees. As I fell to the ground, she called me several swear words and tried to take my backpack from me. She had never tried to take anything from me before. I don't know why, but that was the thing that made me snap. I held on tight to my bag
Damn.
and told her to leave
You
me
about to get
alone.
canceled
You
on
think I'm
stream.
playing?
I'm not, I don't think you're playing. I know you're dead ass. You about to get canceled on stream.
She never done that before.
I had a girlfriend.
I was so surprised that I let go and fell down. She stood over me and started yelling about how useless I was, about how stupid I had been to try and fight her. I just started to cry while blood dribbled down my
And then she
front.
ignored me for like a
And
solid 30
the
minutes
most
while she was
glorious
eating.
sound ever.
And then we
The
went back to
sound of
playing.
a thundering father absolutely
Can't let
livid
people
with
hit
his
you for no
child.
reason.
I guess her dad had come to pick her up from the bus stop for whatever reason, and in
What the
doing so
fuck is
had
2
witnessed
quarts of
this
water?
sweet angel tormenting me. He screamed and screamed at her,
What the fuck are you
even
cooking that you
gripping
need
her arm
2 quarts
tightly
of
and
water?
dragging her to their car. He pushed her inside, yelled for her to stay there, and then ran over to check on me. The guy was red in the face and looked like he wanted to cry as he tried to wipe the blood off my face. He asked me if I could breath alright and if
That
I
could dad
needed
was
a ride to
stupid.
the hospital or home. I told him I wanted to go home. Still trying to hold back his tears, this guy helps me into the front seat of their car and drives me home. What happened next was really intense. Everything that I had been trying to deal with alone came out. I got help from a lot of people, but the bully girl got expelled and transferred to a school with a reputation for less than reputable behavior. To this day, her dad's face
Why you got
sticks
makeup
clearly in
on?
my mind. I've never seen a person look so angry and so broken all at the same time. I hope he is doing alright. This is one of my biggest fears as a parent, because for a long time my son was getting in trouble for hitting other kids randomly. This was in kindergarten. He is going into second grade now. Legit randomly. We had proof and everything. Like once he was putting his snow boots on and a kid was walking by. And my son, straight face and everything, stood up and just cold clocked this poor kid before calmly sitting back down and finishing getting his boots on. I started telling him if he was going to treat others that way, that's how he should be treated, because we follow the golden rule in our house. He didn't like
Oh my
that
lord.
idea, and his behavior started to improve. For clarity, we didn't actually do anything to him. Just told him we would if he kept it
The
up.
fuck is wrong with
And
you?
he wouldn't have any friends because nobody wants to be friends with a bully. He still acts out sometimes, but it's gotten a lot better with talking about why something he did was wrong and how it makes others feel, and asking him how he would feel if someone did those things to him. If it makes you feel better. At that age, behaviors such as
Yes.
what you described are perfectly normal. Children push boundaries so they know firmly what those boundaries are. It should by no means be encouraged, of course, but it's certainly a valuable lesson to learn early. When I heard of my son scaring another child at the bus stop, I marched him over to the child's house, lectured him how this was the wrong thing to do along the way, made him apologize to the other child and the parent, told him in front of them this was unacceptable and I would not tolerate it, apologized myself for his error and assured the two it would never happen again, and then walked him home. Not a parent, but it was probably around the time my brother was 6-7 that I noticed he was a bully. He saw no need to share, be nice, be generally pleasant, social, anything. This never bothered my parents. He was the golden boy. He was showered in praise for anything and given exactly what he wanted when he wanted. He continued to get worse and worse until now he sees nothing wrong with openly talking about how he wants to badly injure and permanently maim anyone he doesn't like. He thinks it's acceptable for him to openly say whatever he wants about anyone and thinks there should be no consequences, but only when it's him. No one can say anything bad about him, even if it's a valid
What did I do so
criticism of
fucking
poor
much?
behavior. He gets violent when he doesn't get what he wants as soon as he wants it. He's pulled a knife on me just because I was taking a turn on the Xbox. It was mine and
Oh,
he
come
wouldn't let me
on.
use it ever. It was the first time I'd touched it in a few months, and screamed about how he was going to kill me because I wouldn't give him what he wanted the second he wanted it. He's not much different at school. He mouthed off to a teacher because she wouldn't give him a grade he wanted specifically because he wanted it, not because he'd earned it. He picks on special education kids, too, since he thinks he's above them. Unfortunately, my parents condone this behavior and have never once done something about it. I have a younger brother who swung a knife at me on 2 occasions, both being unprovoked. The second time I grabbed his wrist, twisted it and disarmed him. Twisted it a bit more so he was in pain and said, "If you ever swing a knife at me again, I'll break your fricking wrist." I was 18. He was 12. 9 years later and he's never tried to stab me again. Sometimes you just have to put people in their place. Kid in my primary school was a righteous bee. When her mom found out you could hear the screaming and yelling if you were living in the housing estate we lived in. I was just there minding my business when I heard what the fool look and the mom going after the girl. Kid came in crying the next day to apologize. Not a parent, but I'm the oldest cousin and I take care of my cousins. One of them
Because you fucking copying me.
and she's 11. When I was younger she would constantly pick on me and treat me badly, and now I see her doing this to the other girls at family get-together.
Don't sing another
She
fucking
would be in
song.
a group with another cousin.
Don't sing another fucking song.
Last time I
Alright.
went to a family gathering, she broke down one of my cousins to a breakdown because they were isolating her and picking on her. I had to console her while she broke down, saying how M would tell her she should not come to her house anymore, and how M wishes that her and her family would just go away. She had told her mother about M actions, but they can't tell my aunt because she's afraid she won't be believed. I honestly hope M grows out of being a little crap. Record her picking on you or someone else, then show your aunt. When my sons told me about the zero
You're not singing them
tolerance
correctly,
policy
so I
at
don't
school,
understand what
gave
you're
them permission
singing.
to defend themselves. They protested, saying there will be a 3-day suspension for any offense or defense. My response was that if you are truly defending yourself,
I'll
I
play
will
them
make
off
sure
screen.
those are the happiest 3 days of your life. As a result, they were never bullied. Bullies just seem to know who won't defend themselves. My sister is a selfish entitled bee who literally won't do a freaking thing for herself. Everything has to be peeled and handed to her in life, or else she'll just cry and use it as more pity for her party. She was always a C to me as I'm her little half-sister, and she resented me because I stole her thunder of being an only child and actually knowing my dad. So I always knew she was awful. But my dad didn't see it until I was a bit older and he started noticing how she would literally take my friends away. That is, lie to them and tell them I'm grounded or that I don't want to be friends with them anymore. Steal my gifts money during holidays, and just generally treat me like crap. Our mom never saw this as she worked constantly and was a raging alcoholic. She didn't believe my dad and I until she came home early from work one day and caught my sister choking me against the wall because I refused to give her my money. Mom grabbed her back and threw her on the bed. After that, my mom stopped fighting with everyone when they'd call my sister on her crap. Both my parents still make excuses for my sister's crappy
What is
behavior
CMDR?
constantly, but they respect that I hate her and refuse to bail her out. She's 30 with 3 kids and a pending divorce. She refuses to
You know
work.
that giraffe
Picks
rig is
crappy
spelled
guys
giraffe
who will
rig
put up with her
backward.
crap. Doesn't cook
Yeah,
food.
you know that
Doesn't
wait, I
take
didn't
care
see
of her
you don't follow
kids.
account.
Nothing.
But you
My
know the
dad
word that
stopped
describes the
dating her
word
because he
that's
sees it
same
as
way
enabling.
backwards.
Our mom,
It's like
not
if you
so
spell that
much.
word
She
backwards,
allows it to
it
continue.
spells the same word.
She knows my sister is a horrible person but doesn't want to hurt the
I know those
grandchildren,
words.
which I've told
Starts
her
with
a
a P. I
million
forgot what they're
times
called.
the
that my
word that
sister is
describes
never
that
going to
fear,
take care of those
that
kids.
word is also
She could
like
be a dang
the
millionaire
same
and she still
as
would
those
have
other
her
words.
kids
Like
walking
you can
around
actually
in
spell it
dirty
backwards
clothes
and
and
spell it the same
unbathed.
way.
My nephew is a huge bully. His mom, my sister-in-law, started to notice this when he started getting physically violent
Don't
with
flinch,
his younger
bitch.
brother, and it didn't
Oh my
turn
god,
out to
that
be
did so
a
much.
phase. And
Get the
when
fuck
he
out of
started
there.
to tell my kids really awful stuff too. And when he
Get the
started
hell out of there.
kindergarten and broke his
You better not
teacher's
double team
chair,
her.
and every day since
And
then,
you double teamed
in
her.
first and
Fuck.
second as well, as she continued to get notes home about how he treats others in class. I think these realizations are generally gradual, with
That's by
parents at
accident.
first hoping it's a phase. Sometimes she cries about it. She said once, not in front of the kids, that she wouldn't have had a second if she'd known he'd end up being such a handful. But overall she doesn't do much. The doctor recommended he be evaluated, but her mother said no and she's totally up
I
her
hate this
mom's
damn phone.
butt. They seriously need to cut the cord. My mother-in-law thinks I'm awful for not letting her control my life like she does
Stomp
with her
him in the
daughter.
nuts.
So he
Stomp
hasn't
him
been
in the
evaluated
nuts.
or received any therapy or anything. They sought to discipline him, but my mother-in-law, who they constantly use as a free childcare provider, says that's mean and he's just being a boy and will give him ice cream after. She now basically just talks to him when he gets a bad note home, which he ignores and continues to do whatever he wants. It's not good, and his mom wants to go into early childhood education. Yikes, number. Bad idea. This is what she's like after 2 years of classes on
Then you build
childhood
like a
development.
You build like a
Shockingly,
laptop.
she can't pass the test to finish her degree.
And you build like me.
At home, my son always went on about
Why I
how
got
much
that
cooler
booty?
he was than everybody else, and I started to worry
Exactly.
it would influence his behavior in
Exactly. You
school.
said you
So
I
told
built
him
like
to
you,
think
so
differently. Soon after, we got a call from the school about him disparaging other kids. Needless to say, he faced some harsh discipline no fortnight for 8 weeks, and was taught about empathy and other viewpoints. 4 weeks into his punishment, we were told at parent-teacher interviews that not only was he being nicer to other kids, but was also more positive in general. I'm
oh my
very
fucking
happy.
god.
This is like the first comment I read where it's actually a parent posting about their child who is a bully. Seems like most parents don't realize it if their kid is a bully. I was a bully when I was little, but I was always really good at masking that. I was a really manipulative little kid. I'm glad I'm not as much of a C anymore and I'm not a little sociopath anymore. Reading your comment gave me flashbacks to 3rd grade when I stole a wheelie chair but my friend got into trouble instead. Not a parent, but I was
Is this the first time I'm gonna lose in a Pokemon game so far?
the one time I asked for
I
their
think the
help.
fuck not.
Note that I'm from France and have been to mostly good schools, so the bullying was light to none compared to some other countries. We don't even have a word for it in French. Usually I was able to stand for myself if necessary, but that one time a group of girls started
trying to
throwing
paralyze the
balls
shit,
in my
but
face in sports class,
it ain't
and
working.
there wasn't much I could say to make it stop. Told my parents, who turns out don't joke with this crap at all. They immediately called the principal, who talked to the sports teacher. She knew they were all practicing a sport at a pretty high level, so she told their coach, who had a lot more weight in their life than any of their teachers or parents. They came back to me awkwardly like, hey, you didn't have to go that far. That wasn't cool and all. Well, you did something dumb, now you live with it.
Pokemon are slow.
Plus these girls, although very cocky when together, were not bad people if you got to know them. That's crazy. Usually telling someone goes nowhere and gets you a good beat down. Not a parent, but I was the one to tell a parent that her son is a bully. I work at a summer camp and she pulled me aside at pickup one day to tell me that her poor son was getting bullied. I asked if her son had named any names and he names the sweetest little kid who was approximately half his size. I kept an eye out for it the next week or so and witnessed the bully get picked on by the kid accusing him of bullying. Eventually the bully would push him back or call him a name, and frankly I couldn't blame him. I explained to the mother that her son was really only the victim of retaliation. She didn't seem to care. Meanwhile he was throwing markers and climbing a stair railing. My younger brother was the bully growing up. He had a rough start to childhood, foster child with some extreme situations, and developed PTSD as well as some other behavioral issues. My parents were always transparent with teachers and other parents. If my brother was doing something,
I'm gonna press my luck.
and there would always be consequences. If it was a serious situation, the school could always call my mom and she would come by the school, any day and any time. We have had a lot of conversations with him about his behavior.
This mall, I was literally like
eating
my ass.
And he's improved as he is getting older. Because we are from a small town, his peers remember everything, but he causes a lot less conflicts now. Basically he got to the point where he realized that he wanted to have friends and what he was doing was not going to help him make any. He had a lot of bridges to rebuild and he's slowly getting there. My 3-year is a bully. His dad is an abusive narcissistic butthole, a bully, liar.
Okay, this Raichu's gonna get jumped now. Fuck this Raichu. It's done too much damage.
When I saw that it was affecting my children as much as me, I got help. The little one is behind on his developmental milestones in addition to his behavioral problems, and my teen from a previous marriage was failing at school and starting to self-harm. I got a hold of the Iwaka Victims Resource Center and got help getting away from the narcissistic ex and getting help for the kids before it was too late. Parents as teachers comes to the house every week to help us learn strategies to encourage better behavior. Weekly meetings at the guidance center for everyone has helped a lot too. I've also had an IU9 evaluation done on the little one and will be receiving the results tomorrow morning. Fingers crossed they get him into early intervention. I will do everything I can to prevent him from becoming like his father. That's no way to live. I was a child who was a bully in elementary school. My dad came to pick me up from school early and saw me being terrible to a kid. He went old-fashioned and started bullying me and told me this is how it feels. It really taught me the empathy and I feel like I turned my crap around. The only time I ever had a problem was once with my oldest. She was 4 at the time. She was teasing her 2-year-old sister because my drawing is prettier than yours. Yours is just scribbles. She kept on and on about it, making her sister cry. So I took her drawing and put it up. I said, now she has a picture and you don't. It doesn't feel too good, does it? I told her, until she drew a pretty picture for her sister and apologized. She wasn't getting her picture hung up. We always hang up their pictures. They think it's a big accomplishment when everyone can see their pictures. She said sorry and hugged her sister and drew her a flower. After that I never had a problem again. I like how most of these comments are not from parents accepting their kid as a bully and those that are justifying their kid's behavior at the end. That's the problem
when I'm
with
30.
bullies. They're usually backed up by their parents, so they continue to bully. Or bullies in general come from crappy households. So
Early 30s.
Decent human beings who will do something about it. There's a girl in my
That wasn't
grade that told
a
her
crazy
not to
question
play in
though.
another kid's house
It was a
because
pretty
it's
normal
dirty and
question
there were
in my
bugs.
opinion. So
My daughter said she didn't
what
want
would
to
you
go to
say?
the other kid's house to play. Now, my wife
What'd
and
you
I are
say?
not poor by any means, and we have bugs in our house too. Flies, ladybugs, ants, yada yada. We also have mice and voles that can't get into our house because we live in a more rural area. Our house is also never clean for more than a couple of hours. I have 3 kids under the age of 8. We have 3 dogs, so our pet hair is out of control.
About
Vacuum
what?
one day and pet hair everywhere the next. So we pointed this out to our daughter and asked how she would feel if that girl was telling other kids not to come to our house for a play date. She got the message. I know my daughter is a good kid. She stuck up for her brother while he was going through a bit of an adjusting period in his life, but that's a story for another time. Not a parent, but an older brother. I found out that my sister is a bully and she got a new iPhone 7 and made fun of every classmate she had. The principal called me instead of my parents. So fun story. There was this crap kid in my high school. Thought he was a gangster.
Hey, enough with the
acted all
CDs.
tough and crap. Tried getting picky on the wrong kid once and got knocked out. Like punch to the jaw. Drool on the floor. A few days later his dad came to school and started yelling at the kid who knocked his son out.
They basically
This
used the
was 10th
relocation of
grade.
the previous
We were
games,
maybe 15.
but added more
Anyways,
location.
he started telling the kid to watch his back. The dad was maybe early 30s. Also thought it was a G. Next thing I know I hear screaming, laughing, and crying. The dad was on the floor. The tough kid was crying. The kid who was being picked on pinched the dad straight in the face. Neither the kid or this dad ever lived it down. I still see him around and think, dude, you got beat up by a lanky teenager. Not me, but when I was a kid there was a guy in my grade who used to consistently pick on my younger brothers, 2 and 4 years younger. I used to defend them. One time he hit them hard so I beat him up pretty good. His dad came to our house to talk to my parents and let them know what I did. When I opened the door and explained that he had hit my brothers and routinely picked on them coming home from school, his dad immediately changed tack and turned on his son for his behavior.
4.5 years, so you're correct.
For picking on kids younger than him. We never had another issue with that.
Yes.
My brothers were to be
you're
about
like a
6 and
sophomore,
8,
and some
and
kids
it probably
picking on him,
helped
right?
that I was
Yes.
a girl.
But Justin can't fight.
Hey,
You beat up, would you kick that
it's
kid
slightly
down?
off topic.
Yes.
But last year my old friend turned terrible bully in middle school reached out to apologize for his behavior. I had already forgiven him but it was heartwarming. I was getting bullied so I started lashing out at other kids who showed signs of not liking me. I was scared of them getting to me before I could defend myself, so I'd preemptively insult them or something. It was nothing very intense, more of an issue of me not knowing my strength. But my parents were just
I'll start using great
convinced
balls
I
now.
was a problem child with absolutely no reason as to my behavior, constantly took away my things, would insult me directly, yank my hair, etc. It did absolutely nothing to stop me, it just made me more upset. Eventually my bullies got to me so bad I broke down in the middle of class. Everyone else laughed at me, and then the teachers thought, hey, maybe something is wrong if this 7-year-old is having a panic attack. I stopped bullying not because of any adult intervention, but because I went to middle school and channeled my issues with being bullied into depression rather than anger. I wrote whatever apologies I could later on, but apparently no one even remembered. The moral of the story is to just not do anything to your kid you don't want them to imitate and actually check on them instead of writing them off. I still have huge insecurity issues years later for having everything ignored. When I was in elementary school, there was this slow kid called Andy. I came up with the nickname Andy Capt and would come up with all sorts of nasty crap to pick on him. After all, he failed kindergarten twice, so he deserved it obviously. One time, I found a marmot hole in the schoolyard and covered it with twigs and leaves, a grave team rocket, and lured the kid to it. Of course, he stepped in it and his
I could have sworn that bitch gave us some music.
One of the recess supervisors saw this.
Oh, I know where to get it.
Told the principal, who told my mom. No more sniz for
Dang,
me
I
for
need to get a
whole
CD.
year really made me reconsider my life choices. I think I'm a better person now. I was being bullied and my mom and dad said if they are doing something to you and you tell them stop more than 3 times beat their $$, so that's what I did. My daughter caught my son harassing another boy in the bus and took a video. When we watched what happened, we made him give a present to the boy in the bus, some sweets, and sent him to school without his lunch bag. Since then, he has been bullied a couple of times and now knows what it is like to be in that position. He is growing and promises to be a very noble man. When I was really little, like 6, I visited these cousins for the first time, 3rd cousins. One was my age, one was older, one was younger. They were super nice to me and to this day, I can't for the life of me figure out why, but I would push them around and hit them. Then I got angry when they wouldn't fall down when I pushed them. They never retaliated and were very nice. I've never been that angry before, but for some reason I was around them. My parents grounded me during the trip. We were there to visit my great-grandmother. Then they would come in and have me explain why I did it, and I was honest and said that I didn't know. I was just angry. I was always super nice to my many other third cousins, so this was odd behavior and everyone knew. I never saw those cousins again and never got to apologize. My biggest regret, and I feel like a total butthole. I love that side of the family a lot and I grew up with them, but for some odd reason, when I visit only that side of the family, I become a little more entitled. Even recently. Makes me sad that my maternal grandparents see me different than my paternal grandparents.
Who'd I start off
They
with?
have always acted the same around me, but the division in how I
Fuck.
act is weird.
Actually, no, that's good. That's
My mum
good.
cried when she found out my
Actually, no,
sister
that's
was
bad.
being
Fuck.
a bully. Mum told her that she was disappointed. It was effective. My sister stopped the bullying. Not a parent, but my nephew, who I am attempting to help raise, is a compulsive liar. He's 8. He is also a terrible sport. He'll lie to his younger brother in a way that is manipulative to get what he wants, and
Not in my
lies
Christian
directly to
Minecraft
myself
server.
and his grandparents. He's had an interesting upbringing, to say the least. But I'm hoping as he gets older I can teach him about the merits of honesty, because at this age he just doesn't seem to get it. Either that or I just don't know how to be a parent. I'm 24. His mom.
See, when I fucking use lick like 10 times in a row, I don't get a paralysis. But when I get it once, I get a paralysis. Okay. Makes no sense.
We call him out on it every time he lies. We tell him he can't lie to us, so he knows that we
And
know
it
when he
fucking
lies,
is
but
great.
continues to do so anyways. He's a sweet kid and listens and does what he's asked of, does above average in school, but that one behavior in particular really bothers me. I wish I could be around more so I can help turn that around. I was that kid in elementary school. My parents believed in corporal punishment. Hint, it worked. Mostly. Most parents don't ever realize it because they are also bullies in a fashion. I'd swear the kids get it from that or neglect. My parents got mad at me for mocking them during a fight and then proceeded to mock me, lol. This is the goodest fly boy. He will bring you 10 years of happiness in exchange for a like on this video. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person. What's the best way you've cheated the system? My high school was somewhat strict about absences. They would do handwriting comparisons with previous notes. The first time I was late, tardy, whatever, I took the actual note my mother would write and rewrote it in my exact crappy 15-year-old's handwriting on loose leaf paper, signed my mother's name, and handed it in. When the folks in the principal's office smelled BS, they called my mother and asked her if she wrote the note, which of course she did. For the rest of the year I was writing my own notes for skipping school. When I landed from my international flight, there was what looked like a 1-2 hours line for nothing to declare and no line for something to declare. One of the options to declare things was food items, and since I had a can of cashews in my back, I just wrote down can of nuts value $2 and went through the declare line. Needless to say, they didn't give a crap about my nuts, but they scanned me through and I was on my merry way in 0 minutes. When I was 16, a friend and I created a website with fake reviews of concerts in the Washington, D.C. area that we didn't actually go
Not to kill you.
Once we had built it up to our satisfaction, we used it as credentials to gain backstage access to a huge D.C. area music festival 3 years in a row. A simple call to the radio station that sponsored the event got us free passes and access to hang out with and interview most of the bands, including Cypress Hill, Coldplay, Social Distortion and Offspring. Nobody ever caught on, and oddly, nobody seemed to be suspicious of our age.
Okay, Ted Bundy, I see you.
A flight I had was cancelled shortly before takeoff on Christmas Eve, so we all piled back in line to get our flights rescheduled. After hours of waiting, I finally get a flight leaving the next day. Exhausted now, I asked the ticket guy if they let people sleep in the airport. Obviously no, that you aren't. Small airport. He tells me no, so I explain my situation. I was over an hour away from where I stayed the previous night, was out of money and asked if they would put me in a nearby hotel. He said all he could do was write a voucher for a cab
Stop being a
to send me
colorist,
back
you
to
hoe.
where I left for the airport. I said okay, but
You're
it
the
would be way more
colorist.
expensive than a hotel. Again, he said it was all he could do and wrote a cab voucher
What do you
for
even mean?
$250. So now I'm just peed at the whole situation, that they would pay $250 for a cab. but not $80 for a hotel. I hail a cab, hop in and explain him the situation. The cabbie is now P2 because he doesn't want to have to drive an hour the next day to get me, but also doesn't want to turn down
Like anyone who could treat me right.
$250. So we're on our way out of town and I'm talking with the cabbie. I ask him if he just turns those vouchers in for cash. He tells
First
me
of
that
all,
he'll get a check in the mail eventually. Then it dawns on me. I ask him if he has
excuse me?
$125
Second of
cash on
all,
him. He does. So I tell
that's
him
not
to
even
take
true.
me to Holiday Inn by the airport and give me $125 and keep the voucher. He thinks for a minute. It clicks with him and now he doesn't have to pick me up the next day. So that night I stayed near the airport, took the shuttle in the morning for free and made $45 which I used for Christmas presents. Small victory. Felt good sticking it to American Airlines though for jerking me around all day. This is a very catch me if you can idea. Just gonna print up a few vouchers.
You're
had a $20
okay. I want to
for
jump
an
this
overdue
fucking
book
Survivor.
at the library, so I brought it back and reshelved it myself. The next day I had a friend of mine go to the library and check out the book. The system said it was the book that was out, so they scanned it back in and my friend checked it out. I later went to check my outstanding fine and it was erased. They must have assumed that the mistake was on their end, which is what I was banking on. I would call my parents collect, and then ask if they could pick me up instead of recording my name. Oh, the number of times my mom got a collect call from soccer practice is over, come pick me up. I learned that you can get into almost any special event by wearing a chef coat. Even just carrying one and walking like you know where you're going will work every time. Most people don't want to look stupid by asking you who you are. The local Dairy Queen in my neighborhood is routinely dirty and run by indifferent teenagers. An ice cream cone will often be a half-assed, sloppy mess. Bathrooms are usually pretty grim, etc. But now and then I get a hankering for a dipped cone and it's the closest place to my house. So one evening I called them up and the conversation went something like this. Dairy Queen person, hello. Me.
How'd you even use the
Hi.
bathroom there?
Who am I speaking to? Dairy Queen person. Jen. Me. Hi Jen. It's fake name. From DQ location in nearby town. I'm probably not supposed to do this but we just had a surprise inspection. Some ballbusters from head office were in today and really gave us the runaround. They were alright but we had
Oh
to
my
scramble
fucking
to
god,
get
I'm tired of these
organized.
Pokemon.
Before they left I overheard them saying that they were headed to your location and I thought I'd give you a heads up. Dairy Queen person.
I'm sick of fucking Houndour getting.
Thanks.
What is that?
Have X many people working
What is
tonight
that?
too.
Yo, Houndour, stop.
An hour or so later,
Okay.
I go to the DQ
This game is
to get
making
a
me
cone and the
angry.
place is spotless.
It's
Hot
pissing me
water
the
on
fuck
restaurant
off.
floor was evaporating.
This
The
bitch is
bathroom
picking me
was
the fuck
spotless.
off.
There was a lineup, but it was moving with an incredible efficiency. My cone was made by one person while another helped with the transaction. The cone was perfect. I pull this one about once a year for kicks and try to do it at a different fast food place each
What?
time. McDonald's Monopoly promotion.
With the
A
what?
few years ago they did a partnership promotion with Best Buy, where every game piece had two stickers.
I cooked it with
One
the
was a
shrimp.
Monopoly game piece for filling in the board. The other was either a free item from McDonald's or a $1 or $5 Best Buy coupon. You could send in a request for game pieces.
I don't
using
even
a
cook my own Alfredo.
self-addressed
People make it for
envelope to the
me. Just because it's my
sweepstakes
favorite doesn't mean I
office.
always cook
My
it.
friend calculated out the cost and determined that with stamps, envelopes, address stickers he could get each game entry for about 75 cents. And that the
Finally,
average
Shroom
return
actually
in
gonna
Best Buy
evolve.
dollars was around 1.50 per entry. He hired a few friends on a Saturday to sit around and stamp envelopes, paid each person like $50 and beer, and ended up generating a few thousand entries. Basically at the end of the day he ended up turning about $2,000 in entry fees into about $4,000 of physical Best Buy coupons. At that time they didn't have any restrictions on the coupons usage, so you could put hundreds of coupons together on one purchase. He bought a ton of PS3 games, a projector for his room, a new sound system, etc.
Finally, some good fucking food.
He realized that the coupons each had a code on them which could be entered into the website and used online as well. So he ended up making about $8,000 in Best Buy dollars by using each coupon twice.
Finally, Schumish has
He
some
then
good
sold about
moves.
enough of the stuff on eBay to make up all the
As
money he
Headbutt,
spent on the whole
Mega
deal,
Drain.
allowing him to keep all the rest. As an additional bonus, he got thousands of free McDonald's food coupons, everything from small fries or ice cream up to combo meals, that he left outside his door in a bowl, feeding our dorm for the next few months.
So let me say it
Unfortunately,
before something bad
despite all
happens.
the entries, we were never able to win a single one
Oh
of
my
the Monopoly
god!
game prizes.
You know
I guess
funny,
the chances are just that low.
There's always something
When I
bad
was a
happening.
teenager, I worked for one of those crappy call centers
I feel like
with one
Pokemon
of those
games are
horrible
cursed.
micromanaging plans. So they would divide us into teams with team leaders. So
What?
one day they switched our teams
I
and
could
I
have sworn to
noticed
attack
that they
word.
never placed
Okay,
me in another team, therefore never accounted for. So I would go in every day, clock and go home or
I need to
whatever, then
heal.
come back and clock out. Eventually I got too lazy for this and just paid a girl to
I'm
clock
reviving
me in and
Takashi.
out. This lasted for a month and a half before anyone ever noticed.
Takashi.
How you even outsourced your non-work?
I named all my
About
Pokemon
2
after
years ago,
rappers.
I had a summer job that used online timesheets. When I
I
started,
know there's a
my
fucking
name
battle
was
after
spelled
this
wrong
one.
on the system. I had it corrected and received
There's
a new
Meek
login,
Mill, there's
but they didn't
Takashi, there's
disable
Wiz
the old
Khalifa,
one.
there's
For
Rico
2 months
Nasty.
I completed 2 timesheets every week and got
Zendaya
paid
doesn't
double.
count,
Nobody
obviously.
ever found out.
And there's SP.
At Six Flags
Because I'm a
one
rapper,
year,
you know.
I rented a tube for the water slides for X
Just kidding.
dollars. But when I went to return
I'm a
it,
SoundCloud
they
rapper.
only offered a X $2
I'm a SoundCloud
refund.
rapper.
I looked at the long, single-file line which consisted of people waiting to rent and people waiting to return tubes. It was so simple. When I was in 8th grade, my friends and I ditched school quite a bit for a semester. This was back before automated systems that called home for absences. Both my parents worked so they wouldn't have got the call at home anyway. The next semester started and a friend of my mom worked at the school and called me into the office. She asked me what was up with my grades. Apparently she would check the grades for her friend's kids. She showed my current grades. D's and I's, incompletes, a nice F. My GPA is a 0.63.
How do you have a
I'm
zero
so low,
GPA? That
I
means
have
you
no
don't do
idea.
shit in school.
Those have to be wrong. She then tells me to get her the right grades from my teachers.
That you have to
She gives me a
try to
form
get that
and
low of
sends
a
me on
grade.
my
The
way.
fuck?
Exactly,
Nothing on the
that's why.
paper but 3 columns.
High school
Class,
classes be
grade,
easy as fuck and you get a
tickets, etc. I was
0.0
freaking out
GPA.
more
You
than
have to
down
try
to
to
my
get that.
teachers. I then decided that since
Yeah,
I
but like
had
to get a
decided to go to
0.0
my
GPA, you
classes
have to
that
actually try
semester
to get
so
an
far,
F.
I should
At
ask for
minimum,
my
shall I?
current semester grades. So I asked all of them for my grade for the current semester instead of the prior one. All of my current grades were A's and B's and all of the teachers signed it and didn't question the form at all. I took the form back to my mom's friend and she changed all my grades. My parents never knew about it. Poor college student with small crack in my car windshield.
Oh my fucking god,
Needed to
stop
get
messing with
annual car
Khalifa.
inspection done but not able to afford to replace windshield. They'd fail you for even a small ding. Mixed up Elmer's glue, white out, and puts a little bit of dirt in the center. Instant bird poop over the crack and an easy pass of the inspection.
Release the
My brother
Kraken.
would do something similar with an overdue inspection sticker. He'd crazy glue a leaf on the outside of the windshield, over the sticker. Cops driving by his car would assume the leaf got stuck there, I guess. He never got pulled over. When the leaf would wear out, he just glued another over it. Okay, so in Ireland we have 2 official languages.
Flinch, flinch,
Irish
flinch.
and English. Because of
Come on,
our
flinch.
constitutional services
Please.
provided by the state have to be in the 2
think it's my
official
friend.
language. The funny thing is
Supposed to
though
flinch
that the
for me.
majority of Irish people cannot speak their mother tongue, Irish. Whenever I do my taxes or any other business with the state, I always conduct it through Irish or demand that it be conducted through Irish. The advantage of this being that the queue line and waiting time for things to be processed for things such as
And Wiz Khalifa
passports,
dies.
tax credits, etc., is always minimal or practically non-existent. I don't like the way my compatriots don't speak our language, but it sure is a massive advantage to me. Also, if the state cannot provide the service through Irish, they try to fast track you through their system of whatever so as to try and not pee you off so you won't complain. I love it. Furthermore, it works for the police here too. If you demand to be arrested in Irish and the police can't speak it well, then they have denied you your constitutional rights, which always looks good for you if things go to court. From time to time, I had some business at one of the local universities. Naturally, parking was scarce, although there were a couple lots in prime locations with available spaces. Naturally, these were all marked for official use only. So I made an
sucking the
official
life out of me,
looking
aren't you?
placard for my sign that proclaimed I was a guest of university relations and I
Yeah,
put it
something
on the
about the game.
dashboard. Worked every time. Work from home computer programmer. Moved to China without telling my company. Still do my work via internet. Still commit to SVN. Still respond to emails.
I got my phone at
Still make
10%.
conference calls, etc. Benefits include cheap rent, Cheap food, cheap girls. Don't have to have my mom call and yell at me about random crap anymore. ATC rum and cokes all day long. Avoid the first
You built like a seal.
$90 Gale of US taxes. Out of the country 330
You
plus
built like an
days.
espion.
Avoid Chinese taxes because they think I'm an extended tourist. Learn a language. Handmade suits for $90 for $90 for $90 for... I had a trig teacher in HS that was a total son of a bee. His tests were killer hard and there was always a huge curve with the raw top score in the 50-60% range. But he would use a bell curve, so in my small class there would only ever be one A, 100%, and two Bs, 87% and 80% or something like that, and then 15 CFs. Jerk. Tests were the only grades in the class, too, so it was all doom all the time. Anyway, I was in that class with a valedictorian and a guy that got a perfect on his sats in 10th grade that was some kind of savant. So on the third test, there were 6 answer multiple choice scantrons. I figured out that if I divided the answers one by all the terms in the question multiplied together, only one answer would come out to an even number or a clean fraction and the rest would be like 14/267ths or something. The clean answer was always the answer and there was always a clean answer. From that point on I finished every test first, always got 2 questions wrong, on purpose, and was always at the top of the curve, thus getting a 100%. The best part was that he accused me of cheating like 5 times and took me to the office, etc., but couldn't prove it. Won the final. 2 hours, I finished the test in 20 minutes and got a perfect score. He flipped out and took me to the office and accused me of all manner of things, but he couldn't prove anything, so he took a major hit every time. I told him what I did later on. He was stupefied. My best cheating the system moment wasn't even clever or really even cheating the system. It was just outright lying mixed with extreme confidence.
I wasn't even paying attention.
When I was 17, a bunch of my friends who were already 18 wanted to go to the strip club. I didn't have a fake id, but I didn't want to miss out, so I just went with them anyway. As we're walking in, everyone gives the woman at the front podium. There was no outdoor bouncer, their IDs. I'm the last in line and I just give her my real driver's license. She looks at it for a minute, and then looks at me with confusion on her face. This says you're only 17. Figuring there's nothing to lose, I just replied, no it doesn't. She looked back at it, back at me, shrugged and said, okay, go ahead. Boom, strip club Jedi. This happened many years ago when I was still a kid,
he got bodied.
and I was old enough to figure out the truth about Santa Claus. Mom took me shopping.
Do you believe in
with her
Santa
for
Claus
Christmas.
now?
She was buying gifts for the whole family, so the shopping cart was
Santa.
quite full. The department store had a well-publicized contest where each customer could have all their purchases reimbursed.
Actually,
It went like this.
you don't
At
want me to answer
checkout,
that question.
The cashier asks you to pick an envelope. If you get the magic voucher, you just walk away and don't pay anything. Obviously,
Yes.
she asked the innocent kid to pick the envelope. Remember that I'm a small kid. When the cashier hands me the envelopes, the lighting is well positioned behind them, and I can see through. They're thin and I quickly realize most of
So you think
them
Santa
are
Claus
empty.
black?
Only one contains a piece of paper.
You think Santa
the
Claus
rest is
black?
family history. Not an impressive feat, but it
I don't
made my
get
day
it.
as a young boy. Many moons ago, I was an on-call engineer for a small local ISP. I got paged late one night and had to head into one of the facilities. I had keys to the office and the elevator, but at some point recently they had installed a key gate system to gain access to the garage. My elevator key only worked the garage elevator and I didn't have a key card for the gates. My solution? I just moved and had some junk in the back of my van. I tied a large frying pan to an extension cord and fished it under the exit gate and across the sensor. The gate opened on my first try. I've since used that technique many times, with
Does it
some
look what?
mixed success. FWIW.
Yeah.
None of my tire
You put shrimp
irons
in
have
there?
ever worked. They also don't slide anywhere near as nicely. I think the
look
frying
okay.
pan was the best tool for this that I've ever tried. I love how people don't think of putting actual security on a warehouse by where engineers work. Working in the city,
I mean,
really didn't
they're
want
basically
to
the same
pay
thing.
$80 a week for parking. I noticed there was very little differentiation between the 0 and O they used on plates.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting
I
paralyzed, you
registered
dick.
custom plates 0101,101 and parked on the street every day. 9/10 times they would put 01011101 on the ticket. Never came back to me and I saved a ton of cash. A few years ago when 56k dial-up was still around and high speed was coming into play, I didn't have a lot of money to get DSL or cable, so I downloaded the 10-hour trial of Nitzero and tried that out. Once my hours ran out, I became curious. I uninstalled and completely cleared off Nitzero and reinstalled the trial again.
Absolutely so
Lo and
beautiful.
behold, it worked. So for the next few months or so I would keep doing this and it
That ain't
continued
douche.
to work. Free internet for months. On top of that, I managed to find a hack that would remove the black ad bar it would place on the bottom of your screen. All was well, but Nitzero eventually caught on.
I'm done with my
I
cooking.
don't know if it was an oversight on their
Ain't you gonna
part
eat
or
it?
if my situation was a fluke.
Like dinner.
Sure, it was a pain in the butt
I haven't
to
cooked all that
uninstall
food,
and reinstall
and I eat it
every
now.
time, but it allowed me free internet when I didn't
I've
have
only
the
been
cash
eating
to
it
shell
while
out for the
eating.
good stuff. Fake press
Yo, Breloom
passes
is
on a
broken
clipboard
now.
entire
Now
the
Shroomish
entertainment
became
world.
a wonderful
Just
creature.
hold on up and keep
The
walking.
glow up is real.
Years ago, back when Circuit City still existed, they had a video game sale going on so that PC games $10 and under were buy one get one free. Except, there was a glitch in the system.
It
So
is
that if you buy a
$3.34.
game under $10, you can get a game
That is
of
too
any
early for
price
dinner.
for free. So, I
Should've
just
waited at
rolled
least
up with
4.
some $5 casual game and a copy of Age of Empires 3
I'm cleaning my
Collector's
dishes.
Edition. And the cashier asked me
I'm
for
gonna
$5.
put it on
I paid him and walked out happy.
I'm gonna make some garlic
And that
bread.
is why
Garlic bread
Circuit
later.
City does not exist anymore. Way back in the mists of time, my family bought our first home computer, an Atari 400. That sucker cost a fortune, about $1,800 in $1982. However, the place we bought it was a discount furniture and electronics store with a lowest price guarantee, good for as long as they sold the item. Do you see where this is going? We went back in 6 months and got a rebate of $300. A year or so later, we got back another $600. By this time, they had changed their policy to for 30 days, but our original sales receipt said for as long as they sold the product. By the time they quit selling the Atari 400, we had gotten back $1,650 of our $1,800 purchase. Nothing fancy, no tricks, just reading the fine print. A few years ago, my credit card allowed me to top up an online sports betting account with cash. It went like this. Step 1. Charge $5,000 to credit card. Get $5,000 in cash on gambling site. Step 2. Immediately take the $5,000 in gambling credit and withdraw it to checking account to pay off credit card. Step 3. Repeat. Because of the rewards program, I got $100 check for every $5,000 I charged. It was like printing money and required no work at all, just a bunch of online transfers. It only worked for a few months before the CC company caught on, but I made about $2,500. 15 years old, in a ski resort in Colorado. Needless to say, I like the mini arcade they had in the basement.
I'm
Really
getting
just
my
like
million.
machines in
I'm
an
getting my
otherwise empty
million.
waiting for board
I'm
suckers
getting
like
my
me to waste money.
million.
And I probably spent about $20 there the first 2 days. Then one day, I noticed a coin slot on the change machine. Not at the bottom, but at the top. It was taped over, but the tape had been ripped, so I put a quarter into it, just to see. Dot. And 2 quarters came out the bottom. Strange. Let's try it again. Same result. Needless to say, I completely emptied the change machine that day, and then complained that the
Kill
change
it.
machine was
Kill it.
empty.
Just kill it,
They
please. Come on,
refilled
come
it,
on.
and I emptied it again. They became a little
I'm putting extra
suspicious when
focus
I
on
was
that thing so
carrying
make sure
around a
both of them hit.
gigantic tub of quarters like an old grandmother at
See?
the Vegas slots, but they never called me on it and they never made me repay anything. All the best secrets are taped over. I went to a Catholic HS and was forced to go to mass once a
Oh yeah,
week.
Feint Tag never
They'd ring a
misses.
bell and everyone would walk into the gym and mass. For 3 years I would quickly open up a side door, hop in my car, go buy
Never
an Egg
mind.
McMuffin, and hang out at a nearby Harley dealer. After an hour, I'd head back to school and go to my next
It never
class.
misses, yes.
The one time I did go, I was right in the first row. I gulped down all of the
That
wine
meme is
like
dead
a
and should
third
not be
person.
spoken of.
Out of 400, could even get to it. The lady serving
Yeah, I
it
could
was
never let
straight
memes
horrified.
die, can ya?
Getting hammered on the blood of Christ is freaking metal.
Every time someone says,
My friends and I
I
went
never
to the
met.
Obama inauguration, and since driving and walking were out of the question, we took the metro. Well, after the ceremony ended, we headed
You never
towards the
die.
nearest metro stop, which happened to be near the
Does
Air
anyone
and
ever
Space
really
Museum.
die?
The stop was closed with a huge
Oh,
crowd of
you just
people
transferred.
trying to get in, so we went back to the museum and played poker for
That's
an
probably
hour
the
and a
feature.
half. After that, we checked back at the station. Still closed, so we walked up 3 blocks to another station. Also closed. Then we were told we had to walk all the way across the mall. At this point it was like 4 or 5 in the evening and we had been up since 3:30 AM and had been traipsing around in heavy winter gear for all of it. So we sucked it up, walked the mile or 2 across the mall to the one open station. And there was a line because it wasn't open yet. So we waited in a nearby food court for an hour until the station opened. And then we got back in line. After we got inside the station, it was a solid mass of people trying to get back
Do
to
you
their
ever
dinner. It would have
feel
easily been
like a
another
plastic
hour or
bag
2 waiting for the train.
through the
Then I noticed that the
wanting to start
Maryland-bound platform was
again?
nearly empty,
Do
so
you
I
ever
said, hey, let's ride up
feel
a
so
few
paper
stops then get on the train
like
headed
a
the
house?
other way. Everyone agreed this was at least a better
Every
idea than
man
waiting. After
into
2 stops, the
you,
platforms were empty and we got
ready,
off that
very
train and
deep.
right onto another
Let's
headed
hang on the
towards
street.
home. I was quite pleased as we rode past the platform of people who would be stuck waiting for empty trains for hours.
You just got to
How to
not
get into the pit area of a concert when you have nosebleed tickets. Being broke, I bought concert tickets at the last minute and got stuck at the very top of the arena in the crappy nosebleed seats. From such a high vantage point, I was able to look down on everybody and notice the line entering the front stage pit area.
You're fucking weird.
I wanted in, damn it. I walked downstairs to the entrance of this line, whipped out my phone, and pretended to make a call. I then started to pay attention to the stadium employees and the manner in which they accepted admission into this most holy of areas. It was a repetitive, mundane task that robots will no doubt be doing within 5 years. Expressionless. They seem to care about one thing only, whether or not you were wearing the red paper bracelet that came with these tickets.
I need Hound Hour to
Feeling the
evolve
warmth
now.
of the light bulb in my head, I scanned the lobby for crappy local band flyers and found one that was bright red. I brought it into the bathroom, folded it across an inch-long strip a few times, then tore it off. I flipped it over to the side that was blank and affixed it to my wrist with a piece of gum. I like your earrings is all I had to say to distract robot lady and fill
You don't play Pokemon Black later today? Like around nighttime?
By her and proceeded to the pit area, right in front of the stage. Rock.
Like DJ hours.
If I'm buying something online, say web hosting for example, a lot of those companies have an affiliate program. I'll sign up for the affiliate program and buy the service through myself. Recently, big conference, 18th floor, top of the building, everyone going down the limited number of elevators at breaks, big lines. People are not going down the stairs by one floor because if you hit down you just get a completely packed elevator. My solution? Go down a floor, hit up, board empty elevator, welcome people on at the 18th and enjoy my quick trip down. The greatest hacks are the simplest, though it would have been better if it didn't fail the categorical imperative. Of course, if I wasn't an American I'd just take the stairs all
Mel's
the way
not an
down.
American, he's actually a Jamaican.
Back in high school, if you lost a book, they would give you a new one, and you had to pay for the replacement by the end of the year in order to pass. That is, unless you found and returned the book, in which case they wouldn't charge you. On the first day of school I would take all my books home. The second day I would report all my books missing and get replacement copies,
Bit about what?
which I would leave in my locker. On the last day of school I would turn in both copies of all books. I never had to bring books to and from school ever.
Jamaican women are really.
I was applying to colleges, and having slacked off all through high school,
They're
I
very
was getting rejected from every
Is that a
one of
good thing
them.
or a bad
I
thing?
finally applied to a university I had no
How's
chance
it both?
of getting into, and marked down
You
that
wanna
I
leave
was
and they
Native
probably
American, though I'm very clearly white. A month later, I learned that I had
I'm talking like
gotten
you're in love.
contingent on me
Especially if
completing
you
a
cheat.
summer in a program for
You won't die.
minorities, focused on bringing up their skills and background.
Ah,
to
nigga
their
gonna
more
die.
qualified peers. I accepted, had a very interesting summer, a whole other story,
In Africa,
worked
I don't
my
think it really
butt off
matters.
for 4
Like, they have, like,
years,
multiple.
and graduated with honors. Dumpster diving. It's profitable.
Yeah.
Where to start? I've got a million of these stories. I've made quite the profit selling things that stores throw out. I live in a college town and at the beginning of summer when everyone is leaving, my friends and I hit up the campus and apartment dumpsters for free stuff. I found a gift bag full of jeans with receipts stapled to them. Must have been an unwanted Christmas present. The dates were from December. Went back to the department store they were from and returned them. Made about $80. I went on a date with this guy to the movies. The theater had free refills on popcorn. He grabbed a giant empty popcorn bucket that was sitting on top of a garbage can, walked back around and got it refilled. Saved like $8. Then we got married. A friend of mine in college knew exactly when the Krispy Kreme guy came to take out the old boxes of donuts and put fresh ones in the dorm food shop. He'd basically meet him out at the dumpster to intercept the still warm donuts from that day. He had
Sleep.
boxes of them stacked floor to
Sleep.
ceiling and was always handing them out to strangers. Maybe dumpster diving isn't for everyone, but I have no shame. Sometimes, when no other car is around, I go over the speed limit to reach my destination faster than intended. It really is win-win. You monster. Got into the 2010 Vancouver Olympic men's gold medal game for free because I had a volunteer badge for a charity that wasn't working there that day.
Damn, almost one
This
hot.
goes
One
back a
shot.
ways when you could still park in front of airports, but got a ticket if you parked longer than 15 minutes or so, at least in Syracuse.
Thanks, Teddy
I
Ursa, for
pulled
the
in with
crit.
some buddies to pick up a friend flying in, but we got there a few hours early for some beers. When I pulled up, there was a
Oh my
car
God,
behind me with
he
a
has
parking
69
ticket on it.
69
I grabbed the
HP.
ticket and put it on my car. Hours later,
Get 'em,
the same
boys.
ticket was on my car, which was written for the other car. My dad did something similar. Long-term parking was $35.
That
but
did way
getting
too
your
much
car
for
towed
something
was
to be
only
so resistant to
$15.
something.
Sheriff told him to stop after the fourth or fifth
He got
time.
crit by a wife.
I was a senior in high school. It was about 2 weeks
The
before I was done with
fucking
high school
Hound Hours are a
permanently,
dark
and I
type, so
was in
like
band. Our concert was over. We were
somebody's
just all
ghost
sitting
type
around
move
doing
did
nothing.
quite a bit
Well, I
to
had a
me.
car, so I left early. No biggie, right? Wrong. I get called to the principal's
Oh my
office
God,
for ditching.
the day is gonna
So,
evolve.
the conversation goes. Principal,
Oh, shoot,
you were
it's
reported as
not me, I
leaving
had
school
to.
early by Mr.
I'ma beat it
Teacher.
up,
Why did you leave school early? Me. You weren't doing anything
I'ma
in
beat it
class,
up.
so I left. Principal, did you have permission from Mr. Teacher to leave? Me. Number. Principal, well, you have two options. 1. Corporal punishment, or 2. In-school suspension. Me. Thinking, could I just take out of school suspension? Principal, you want me to suspend you from school? Me. Sure, I'll take us for ditching class. Principal, okay, if that's what you want. And true story, that's how I got to spend my final days of school at home watching TV, while everyone else was stuck at school. I was so excited I gamed the system that I laughed all the way home from school. I walked in and couldn't wait to tell someone what I'd done. Unfortunately, my parents didn't get why it was so funny. Didn't matter. I was released from prison 2 days earlier
Presses
than the rest
B.
of my cellmates. Those were 2 days of win for me. I once worked a job for 3 years. The whole time I worked there I had an imaginary kid for the purpose of leaving early and getting off work. When I first started there I only had intentions of staying a few months until I found something I liked better. I had always been a bit jealous of people with kids getting to leave early and take off work with no questions asked, so I decided to try it for fun. Long story short, I ended up moving up at that company and had to keep this terrible lie going for 3 long years. I thought about my imaginary child getting some terrible illness and killing him off like a sitcom actor with a contract renewal coming up, but I actually grew fond of little Rodney over time. We had been through so much together. I bet I could have gotten an entire month paid off if I did kill him off though. Throughout college I had a sneaky way of cheating the system when studying for tests. Whenever it was time for me to study I would send out an email to my entire class saying something like, hey, I'm working on a study guide for the test. If anyone wants to send me a copy of theirs I will send you mine. Just to make sure we haven't missed anything of course. Within an hour I would get several study guides sent to me and I would send them back a copy of another person's study guide. In the end everyone is happy and none the wiser. I've tweaked a moped scooter so it can reach 60 miles per hour. Suitable for all my needs. I leave the moped plate on it so I can be
Downtown.
exempt from certain traffic laws and insurance requirements. I can use the
That's a
bike
good
lanes
girl.
when I need to get around
I took her
traffic.
to my penthouse and I freaked it.
Takeshi's is at my friend's birthday party. That one
don't
game where the
believe
light shoots bulb to bulb really quickly around a circle and you have to press the button when the light lands in your zone? Well yeah, the door was unlocked and I stole a fat roll of tickets. probably made my year. Every day on my way to work, I got a can of ginger ale. Every day, 25 cents plopped into the machine. Every day, a cold can of refreshing soda fell out. Until one fateful day, I dropped my quarter in and 2 cans of ginger ale popped out. Then, in that instant of time, I knew that destiny had greater plans for me. That was the day I became enlightened. I had reached spiritual soda moksha. The universe revealed itself to me.
Oh my god, 2 crits, what the fuck?
I could
This
find
game's broken.
in a blink of an eye. Mother Nature herself bowed before my power. Some call me a god.
I feel like if you have paralysis, you should get 2 times the damage to electric type moves.
My day job. I have only told this to a few very close friends and they are so stunned by the brilliance
And vice versa for
here is how I didn't
burn, poison, and
work that I know.
that's it.
The management will let me work on from home.
And frozen.
I can outsource to really cheap but super skilled overseas people. I work in project management, business analysis and IT. Basically I will scope the task to a selection of overseas guys at a fraction of what I make and then just kick back.
I mean, it makes sense.
Get fit, surf Reddit, go to the beach and generally enjoy life. I then check on progress and advise my company. The work is often better than I can do and my work think I am a freaking legend. SHHH. Like this video, but quietly so you don't wake up the sleeping papa. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people. My ex-mother-in-law gave my 3 kids gifts they loved at Christmas when they were small. 2 days later she came to the house, packed everything she got them into bags and took it all back to the stores because
damn, this Illumise really doesn't want to do anything. It gave up. They want to fight.
As an entertainer for 6 months. She didn't need that much money on the ship but kept an apartment back in Germany with the landlord getting regular standing order. When she came back home she couldn't get her door open. Called the landlord and he told her he had already thrown out all of her stuff because after 1 month of her cruise she didn't pay the rent. Turns out her parents, who had access to her bank account in case of emergency, took all the money, and she made a lot in those months on the ship to pay the bills because their own salary had gone into 2 new cars. So basically she sat there without an apartment, without any friends in town, totally jet-lagged and without a single euro in her pockets. Still makes me mad. My aunt racked up about 60 grand in credit card debt and can't declare bankruptcy because my uncle would lose his job over that. The dong move.
It was like 3
grandmother ignorant and uneducated for not changing her will, cutting out other family members to cover my aunt's reckless debt.
Baby girl, what's your name?
Waiting for someone's death to fix your mistakes. And the reason my grandmother doesn't have an education is because she spent her teen years at Auschwitz. Whoa, that took a turn. My good buddy's wife is famous for her lack of tact and general pissiness. Their little girl is about 2 years older than mine. Her birthday was coming up, and my daughter, 7 at the time, wanted to pick out the birthday gift. She plays with my friend's daughter and has a good idea what she likes. She made a long list and carefully selected what she thought was perfect. Fast forward to the day of the party. Buddy's daughter opens up my daughter's gift. Her eyes light up, and she squeals thank you. Buddy's wife, oh, honey, Granny got you one of those already. Go ahead and put that one in the Goodwill charity donation box. My daughter was crushed. Took all my strength not to get up and slap the ever-living crap out of my buddy's wife. 6 months later, we drew names for Christmas gifts for the kids. Buddy drew my daughter and his wife forgot to buy a gift for her and didn't realize it until we were passing out gifts. I don't speak with them anymore. The biggest dong move I have ever witnessed was at my friend's birthday party. Around 10 years old, his grandmother sent $10
Haha, took your spiel, haha.
The dong move being that she checked all the scratchies before sending them in case one had a big payout. I got to see his face drop as he opened the envelope to find 10 pre-scratched, worthless scratchies. Please tell me that she was on an ever-descending path of senility, and truly did not understand the reason why people give scratch-off lottery tickets as gifts. This happened to a co-worker of mine. My co-worker had a son die very young, around 14. He got his son cremated and had him in a vase in his house with pictures etc. One day while he was breaking up with his wife, now ex, he came home from work and the ashes were gone. He still has no idea where they are 5 years later. He assumes she threw them out. It was his son from a previous marriage.
A Beldum? That's not a war type
My
Pokemon.
first reaction after reading that was that's disgusting. There's truly no other way to describe that. A few years ago, as I was graduating high school, my dad got incredibly sick and ended up in a coma. While he was in the hospital, I still lived at home, waiting to turn 18 to move out. But living with me was his new girlfriend. He had moved in 2 weeks after my mom left. So I am pretty upset because I thought my dad would die, and in the midst of that, his girlfriend is constantly calling me a liar and telling me she will throw my stuff on the lawn because she doesn't want me there. Now during this time I was working full time at car dealership and wasn't dating anyone. But I later found out that once my dad finally recovered, his girlfriend, now wife, told him I was bringing different men home every night and sleeping with them in his house, and that I didn't care enough to respect his house while he was gone. I never did that. I was almost never home because of work. So then because of what she told him, while he was in the hospital recovering, he took my house key from me and told me I wasn't welcome there anymore. I have cut all ties with her and only see her twice a year at holidays, but we hardly speak. I did cut my father out for a year after it happened, but I decided to try and reconcile with him, and then I got a job at the same company as him, so we see each other every day now. We still have a strained relationship because I have a hard time letting go everything he has done to me over the years. I hope to one day get the courage to explain to him that I never did those things, but I know he won't believe me till he sees what he really is like himself. So for now I keep my distance. I moved an hour away so I know that she won't be in my life, and keeping everything separate is good for now. Unfortunately it will take more than a few talks to heal the damage he has done to me from this incident and several more. My sister borrowed a large sum of money from our retired mother, with a promised payback plan. It never made a single payment. Mother is now down to her last dollar, so we tried to get our sister to pay her at least some of the money she owes. A few months later a check showed up at our mom's made out to her for $0 and a comment on the bottom that said, "Get a job. My mother will not take legal action against her own daughter." Yes, I've cut all ties to my sister. My son is her only niece-nephew and I vowed that she will never meet him. I have an amazing family of in-laws that are wonderful, so my son has fantastic aunts, uncles and cousins
Yep.
without her being in his life.
A
Plus,
lot.
as she gets older my sister becomes more
Like
xenophobic
2,000,
and my son,
3,000.
being
I don't
adopted
know.
from a
I don't
foreign
know.
country,
I
isn't
don't know.
American, i.e., white enough to please my sister. It's not totally uncommon for family to screw each other over money. As you and your parents get older, make sure you talk about their finances and how prepared they are for retirement etc., as well as what their wishes are. Don't leave these things to the last minute or you may end up surprised and confronted with newfound knowledge of dishonest siblings when it's almost too late to deal with it. My grandmother had a few gold watches she was really proud of. She got them from the mayor or something at some point in her life and they were worth a fair amount of money. My cousin, who was a bit closer to my grandma than me, I lived far away from her, told my grandma she really wanted to have one of the golden watches. So my grandma gave it to her and to her sister. Not soon after I found out that my cousin went straight to the jewelers to sell the watch. My grandma passed away a few months later. My sister was pretty upset because she would have liked the watch as a memento. It wouldn't have mattered if my cousin kept it as such, but she didn't. She sold it right away. We would have gladly paid her the few hundred she got for them at the jewelers. My granddad spent half his life collecting stamps. After my grandma passed away he was really depressed and didn't see the point in anything anymore. He told my uncle that he didn't want to collect stamps anymore and gave him the collection. My uncle put it on eBay straight away and sold it for like 5,000 euros a few days after. To put this into perspective, my granddad also called up my mother and told her to take the cat, then called up a week later saying he wanted him back. He was in a really bad place after losing his wife for 55 years. Something anyone with half a brain should fricking understand. It was his life's work, goddammit. My uncles keep pressuring my grandpa now to give them the money he has saved up. My granddad finally gave up and gave everyone in his family money a few months ago. I didn't want to because I know that he's being pressured about it by my uncles and he should be allowed to live his final days without stress. I couldn't find a way to tell him though. If I gave him the money back he'd take it the wrong way and I don't want to upset him any further.
Oh, come the fuck on.
It's in my savings account. I don't know what to do with it. TL. DR. One side of my family is only after the money and don't give a crap about my dying grandparents' feelings. The best thing you can do is use that money to visit your grandpa regularly. He would like that better than all the money in the world if you are as nice a person as I gather from your account. My father asked my mother for a divorce on my birthday, took everything they had in their home, started dating a 20-year-old. I took out a $6,000 sign loan to refurnish a house I started renting with my mother, one I could not afford on my own. My mother died 2 months after moving in. In her final email she told my father to give me the life in so I can pay the loan back and hopefully pay most of the rest of the lease. He took off with it, bought a truck and a stereo, left me broke, in debt, in a lease I couldn't afford, and with a little brother to take care of and get the rest of the way through high school. My parents also owed the school $2,000 that the school demanded from me or else they would not let my brother graduate. Dong. When I was 8 years old, I left a couple of toys on the floor. My mother, who is rather schizo, snapped and proceeded to smash all of the toys in me and my bro's room. We had a couple of big shelves with boxes of soft toys and books and stuff, and my brother was 3 years old so there was a lot of really cute kid stuff in there. She tore everything to freaking shreds and threw it out into the hallway at our feet, while ranting about how horrible we were and how much we deserved it. A couple of the things were large and wooden. There was a kid's wheelbarrow type thing that my bro absolutely loved, and she smashed it on the floor incredibly hard directly in front of him. My bro was in absolute shock. He looked terrified. He just stood with this tragic silence throughout the whole episode. That was the first time I can remember him looking like that. He defaulted to that demeanor whenever she would lose it after that, and most of my significant childhood memories involve him standing like that and me trying to console him. This is pretty personal to share. I don't think about it very often, but this post triggered the memory. It feels pretty good to type it out. Jesus, the things parents do to their kids. I just want to go home and hug the heck out of mine right now. I saw a little girl order something off a menu at a restaurant in Florida. When she was done ordering, her mom said, "You really messed up again. I trusted you this time. You wanna get that tummy tuck surgery when you're 20? What's the matter with you? Waiter, give us a few more minutes." My daughter was confused. The little girl was not that overweight, had to be around 10 years old, and was now crying hysterically. The mother kept yelling at her to stop embarrassing her and making a scene. I'm a dude, was about 22 at the time, and actually considered the consequences of smacking her in the face. While smacking her in the face would have been illegal, calling her a stupid cuntbag and a few other choice names would have been totally called for. This is exactly the type of behavior that causes eating disorders. I went to a small Southern Baptist church as a kid. A friend of mine whose family didn't have a lot of money stayed over on a Saturday night and went to church with my family the next morning. She was concerned about her clothes because she didn't own a dress, but she had some nice khaki pants and a nice shirt, and we told her that would be absolutely fine. The preacher's wife approached us after Sunday school, before the service, and pulled my friend to the side of the sanctuary. My friend was trying to pull her arm away because the woman was hurting her, so I followed, and heard the preacher's wife say to her, "Listen, you're welcome in God's house, but I don't want to see you back here until you can find something decent to wear." My mother had followed me and heard her, so we packed up and left right then, and did not go back. We'd been going to that church for about 10 years. I can totally hear the lady's tone, and it makes me want to punch her in the face. That is awful. A crazy lady in my buddy's family will routinely host parties and such just so that there is a large number of purses available to pick from. A bar around here told a packed house that anyone who could drink the bar towel shot, a shot glass filled with the squeezed nastiness of the bar towel, and keep it down could drink for free for a week. Some dude actually did it and we all drunkenly cheered for his disgustingly iron stomach and it was rad. That is, up until the bartender told him that it wasn't actually approved by management and that he would have to do it again when the manager was around. Thankfully,
Why does
the
that do so
bartender was fired for
much?
this, and the poor dude who drank it actually got $100 of drinks on the house for whenever he wanted. Man, as somebody who can't even stand the smell of the bar towel on a busy night, I'm actually glad that the bartender was fired for trying to pull that crap. Many years ago, I allowed my brother-in-law to stay with us temporarily as he lost his job and his apartment and had nowhere else to go. He acts nice in the beginning. We go out of town for a few weeks and he is eager to watch the house for us. We come back. He has changed all the locks. We knock and he refuses to answer. Suddenly cops pull up and he had successfully evicted us from our own property. Had to rent another place for 6 weeks until we could go through legal proceedings and get back in. When we did get back in, he had trashed the house, poured milk and eggs on the carpets, put raw chicken inside the walls, stolen all the plugs and fixtures, ceiling fans, etc. Sold our appliances, and he even killed a bunch of random stray cats in the neighborhood and laid them all around the house.
Excuse me?
Called the cops again and was told it was a domestic civil issue and to take him to small claims court. TLDR. Allowed down on his luck bill, stay with us. He evicts us and trashes our house before we get our home back. My girlfriend and her 2 kids were living with my girlfriend's mother. This nut job is always emotionally abusive to my girlfriend, telling her she is a terrible parent and all she does is go to bars and drinks. She never does. Well, one day about a year ago, the GF's mother decides she doesn't like her daughter and grandkids hanging out with me. So she throws all of their stuff into plastic bags and kicks my GF and her 7 and 8-year-old out. My GF and I had already been talking about them moving in with me when summer hit, but her mom hates me so much that she takes it out on her daughter and grandkids. Fast forward to last week. I propose. The girls and woman I love accept. When she tells her mom, the lunatic sends her a crazy email about how she is the worst parent in the world, and how she doesn't want to ever see my fiancé again, and how she is looking forward to seeing the girls when they are 18, unless CPS takes them first. I'll vote for caring whether or not the girls accepted your proposal too. Similar kind of situation with my now ex. She opted to separate a couple of weeks before Christmas. I almost didn't notice because I was working 16+ hour days with Y2K prep. So when the morning of the 25th she showed up with her entire family with pickups and trucks to take out all of her things from the house, which was literally everything. The kicker is after I was visibly cleaned out, she went to the closet to pull out the presents that I bought for the kids and stated, "They can open them at my new place. They have no beds to sleep in here. You want them to have their gifts, right?" I consider all of that time to be a dong move. My older sister has been wanting to have children forever, like years now. Unfortunately, she is unable to have kids. I have another sister who is totally